Eastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We are located on the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. Today is Monday, March the 19th, and your radio host is Wanda. I will be reading from the Sunday Fayetteville Observer. We'll start off with the Need to Know section. Free Shred Event. H&R Block is hosting a free shred event Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon in Fayetteville and Lumberton. Participants may bring one box of personal information to be shredded. The Fayetteville location is Cross Point Shopping Center, 5075 Morganton Road, Suite 5B. The Lumberton location is at 3555 Fayetteville Road. Community meeting. Harnett County is hosting a community meeting March 29th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. where officials will provide an update on possible plans for the former Shawtown school site and give residents an opportunity to ask questions and provide feedback. The meeting will be at the Shawtown Community Building, 28 Bethea Road in Lillington. For more information, call 893-7555. Lunch and lecture. The Sandhills Women Exchange will host its next lunch and lecture series Thursday. The guest speaker will be Jen Lightshoe, co-founder of the Sandhills Farm to Table Cooperative. Seats are limited. Call 295-4677 to reserve a spot or stop by the exchange at 15 Azalea Road in Pinehurst. Tickets are $25. The lecture is at 10:30 a.m. followed by lunch. Proceeds go to the upkeep of the 1810 historical cabin. Lip Sync Showdown. The Lip Sync Showdown, a fundraiser for the Child Advocacy Center, is Saturday at the Crown Center Ballroom. A social hour begins at 6 p.m. The show starts at 7. Tickets are $50 per person for standard table seating and $75 per person for VIP table seating. Tickets are available at the Cape Fear Tix, that's TIX.com, or at the Crown box office. For more information, go to CACFAYNC.org. We want to hear from you. Please submit your events in writing at least 10 days in advance. Email calendar@fayobserver.com or fax details to 486-3545. For questions, call 486-3500. Next, we'll go to Livewire. The first question. I'm a veteran and I want to find out what to do to make arrangements to be buried at the Veterans Cemetery. The answer, this is coming from LP in Fayetteville. The answer, according to the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, eligibility for burial in a VA National Cemetery must be verified through the National Cemetery Scheduling Office. A determination of eligibility is made in response to a request for a burial in a VA National Cemetery. To schedule a burial, fax all discharge documentation to 866-900-6417 and follow up via phone at 1-800-535-1117. Another question. What is sleep apnea? I need some information. Does it affect men and women? What ages? How is it treated? What are the effects? This comes from TP in Fayetteville. And the answer is, according to U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, sleep apnea is a condition that occurs when the upper airways become blocked repeatedly during sleep, reducing or completely stopping airflow. Sleep apnea is diagnosed by healthcare providers through sleep studies. It can affect men and women. It can affect people at any age, but the risk increases with age. If you are diagnosed with sleep apnea, your doctor may make recommendations to help you maintain an open airway during sleep, including healthy lifestyle changes or breathing device, such as a positive airway pressure machine, mouthpiece, or implant. If left untreated, sleep apnea can lead to serious complications such as heart attack, glaucoma, diabetes, cancer, and cognitive and behavior disorders, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Livewire seeks to answer questions of general interest and consumer topics. Initials are used to identify questioners when names are given. Contact Livewire at livewire@fayobserver.com or at 486-3516. Public safety. The following are arrests in Cumberland County. Devontae Kendrick Greenway, 19 of the 4900 block of Galveston Drive, was charged Friday with breaking and entering, possessing stolen goods, and larceny. Bail was set at $149,000. Desmond Ashley Perkins, 29 of the 400 block of Booker T. Washington Road in Clarkton, was charged Friday with possession of a stolen firearm, misdemeanor carrying a concealed weapon without a permit, and misdemeanor drug violation. Bail was set at $3,000. Johnny Otis Gary Jr., 31 of the 300 block of Plum Street, was charged Saturday with 2 counts of assaulting, inflicting serious injury, misdemeanor communicating threats, and misdemeanor resisting an officer. Bail set at $10,000. 65-acre fire reported in Hoke County. A large woods fire in Hoke County on Friday afternoon grew to 65 acres before being contained by multiple ground and air fighters. Emergency responders were dispatched just after 2 p.m. to the 6,000 block of North Carolina 211 in the McCain area. The first arriving unit found a large fire in the woods and began requesting additional resources. Robert White, a Hoke County District Ranger, said resources brought to the fire included 16 fire trucks, a helicopter with a water drop bucket, 4 planes, and 2 tractor plows. Quick action by fire officials saved 4 homes that were in danger from the wind-driven flames. Firefighters remained on the scene until 6:30 p.m. working to ensure the fire was contained. Fire departments from Hoke and Moore counties and the North Carolina State Forest Service responded. Pearl Haywood was a part of Mama and a part of me. Pearl always took her seat in the chair by the piano, Mama in the chair by her secretary, and they talked for at least an hour of Pearl Haywood's 3-hour shift on Friday afternoons for more than 15 years. Neither one of them paid any mind to the kitchen that needed a swabbing, or the bathroom vanity, or the carpet in need of a vacuum cleaner. Mama, I used to say, Pearl can't get her work done because all y'all do is talk and laugh with one another like 2 teenage girls. Pearl Haywood helped Mama around the house when osteoporosis was taking a toll on Mama's back. And before that, Pearl helped my aunt in her older years. Pearl Haywood was just a part of all of us. "Oh, Billy," Pearl would say in 2007 when Mama suffered a heart attack and was in the hospital, "I can't work. I've got to go to the hospital and be with Miss Kirby." Pearl Elliott was the first of 17 children born to Robert and Catherine Elliott on November 20, 1935 in Wade, and where every one of their children learned the value of hard work, high morals, self-respect, and that nothing was more important than God in their lives. We were raised in a godly home and to keep the Lord's commandments, James Elliott, one of those 17 children, would say. We jumped rope, we played hopscotch, we worked in the fields picking cotton, tobacco, and cucumbers. We had prayer in the morning and at the close of each day. If we were not in the field or school, we were in church. Pearl was more like a mother to us than a sister. Pearl Elliott was a graduate of Armstrong High School, the class of 1953, and known for an endearing smile that no one could resist, including Vernon Haywood, who took her for his bride when she was 16 years old. When they were grounded in God, Gwendolyn Bledsoe, a sister, would say of Vernon and Pearl Haywood's life at Bethlehem Free Will Baptist Church. And if no one else was in the seats at church, they were in the pews. They would raise 5 sons, 3 daughters, and a stepdaughter in their 46 years of marriage until his death at age 67 on September 14, 1998. She took pride in her children, who served in the armed forces or became educators and nurses among their vocations, and they loved their mother dearly. Pearl Haywood worked in the cafeterias at Wade and District 7 elementary schools from 1966 until 1998, where the students adored her and she loved them like the children of her own. "I just get attached to them," she would once say. "I take them on, and they take on to me." It broke her heart when Mama died on December 17, 2009, and it was Pearl who comforted me in the months ahead. She would sit by the piano. I would sit by Mama's secretary, and we would talk and talk and talk. And Pearl would remind me about how much my mama loved me. The kitchen floor didn't matter much to either of us. Pearl Lee Elliott Haywood died February the 26th. She was 82. Pearl Haywood was not my mother's housekeeper. She was part of my mother. Pearl Haywood was not my housekeeper. She was part of me. And we loved her being a part of us along her life's way. This is written by Bill Kirby Jr., who can be reached at bkirby@fayobserver.com or 485-3571. Ladies and gents, if you would just hold on for just a moment, we're going to take a short little break. Okay, back to business. Bragg paratrooper is coming home. The letters have stayed in the family for decades. Handwritten accounts of Staff Sergeant David Rosencrantz's service in the 82nd Airborne Division amid World War II. They were mailed from Fort Bragg, Italy, and England, and served as a window into the life of one of the nation's first paratroopers. The letters never answered the question that bothered the Rosencrantz family for more than 73 years. Where was he? Last week, the family finally got their answer. On Thursday, the Defense Prisoners of War Missing in Action Accounting Agency announced that Rosencrantz remains were identified and that they are on their way to the family in Los Angeles for a burial in the United States. Rosencrantz fought with H Company, 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment. He made combat jumps into Sicily and Holland and participated in the historic Wall River crossing during Operation Market Garden. On September 28, 1944, after German tanks and infantry launched a major attack on his unit, he went missing. According to DPAA, Rosencrantz's platoon was occupying a farm near the town of Groesbeek when they were attacked by an overwhelming force. The isolated paratroopers hid among sparse trees and buildings, officials said. As Rosencrantz rose from his position, enemy gunfire erupted and Rosencrantz was killed. Due to enemy fire and the proximity to enemy troops, Rosencrantz's remains could not be recovered, the DPAA said. Decades later, his remains were found with the help of several Dutch citizens, the Royal Netherlands Army's Recovery and Identification Unit, and the American Battle Monument Commission, officials said. Philip Rosencrantz, a nephew who has been searching for his uncle's remains for nearly 2 decades, said the discovery helps bring closure to the family. The younger Rosencrantz is a professor emeritus in the Industrial and Manufacturing Engineering Department at California Polytechnic University in Sonoma. He was born in 1949, 5 years after his uncle went missing in Europe. His uncle was one of 5 brothers who served during World War II. Philip Rosencrantz said the family plans to bury his uncle next to those brothers at Riverside National Cemetery in Southern California. We think that's the best place for him, he said. We're all really excited about being able to do his memory justice and finally get him to rest with his brothers. The nephew said he has learned that his uncle's remains were not identified immediately after the war because he was separated from his identification tags. Those tags were found near Grosbeek several years ago and returned to the family, he said. Officials found remains 2 years ago and recently made the match using DNA testing, Philip Rosencrantz said. It's emotional, he said. I'm stunned. We were waiting 18 or 19 years for this to happen. The nephew said he and other members of the family, none of the Rosencrantz siblings are alive today, have developed a greater understanding and respect for what their uncle accomplished through their efforts to find his remains and conversations with veterans who served with him. When I grew up, nobody could tell me what happened to him, Philip Rosencrantz said. Nobody told me the same story. It just became folklore. But the truth is pretty amazing to know. The discovery was praised Saturday by the unit Rosencrantz served with in World War II. The 82nd Airborne Division is grateful to the Rosencrantz family and the Dutch officials who saw to its conclusion, Division spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Buccino said. David Rosencrantz was an original all-American paratrooper. Bringing him home and properly honoring him is important to us. Rosencrantz, born in Los Angeles in October 1916, was 27 years old at the time of his death. He worked at a General Motors plant before enlisting in the Army in February of 1942. In his letters, which his nephew has posted online, the soldier described how the 82nd Airborne Division prepared for war. Life goes on as usual around here, he wrote on March 17, 1943. We keep training, and although it gets monotonous sometimes, we're always learning something new. New accounts of the war also mentioned Rosencrantz. Several American newspapers in July of 1943 told the story of how Rosencrantz and another soldier, Corporal Lee Black of Jackson, Tennessee, captured 200 Italian soldiers. According to reports, Rosencrantz sprained his ankle during the combat jump into Sicily on the early morning of July 10, 1943. He and Black hid until daylight so that he could recover, and then set out walking to find the rest of their unit, but instead marched into the group of Italian soldiers. They captured us, Rosencrantz told an American reporter who wrote about the incident. But then strange things began to happen. They held a conference and decided to turn themselves over to us, for they heard that Americans were only 8 kilometers away. According to the report, Rosencrantz and Black collected the Italian troops' weapons and then marched them to the American forces. They were singing and just about raising hell, Rosencrantz recalled, and a couple of them remarked that they hoped they would be sent to a prison camp in the United States. The soldier was later quoted during accounts of the fighting near the Nijmegen in the Netherlands, which were published just days after his death. Nijmegen did not last as long as Sicily, Salerno, and Anzio, Rosencrantz told a foreign correspondent of the Indianapolis Times, but it was tougher and bloodier while it lasted. UNCP administrator honored with Bowles Award. Robert Canida, director of the Office for Diversity and Inclusion at the University of North Carolina, Pembroke, has been awarded one of the state's university system's highest honors. Canida is the 2017 recipient of the Erskine B. Bowles Staff Service Award. The award is given annually to a staff member who has shown exemplary understanding, empathy, and devotion to mankind, and whose accomplishments are consistent with the goals exemplified by Bowles during his tenure as UNCP president. He was honored during a recent awards ceremony on campus and will be the special guest during a reception Friday at the home of UNC President Margaret Spellings. Samuel's Italian restaurant reopened in late February at 3057 North Hope Mills Road. I'm sorry, let me read that again. Samuel's Italian restaurant reopened in late February at 3057 North Main Street in Hope Mills. The new two-story building was erected next to the old building, which has been torn down. Customers will find a see-through fireplace, a 20-foot bar with about 15 seats and TVs on both sides, private dining rooms, covered patio, rooftop dining, and party room for up to about 150. On a Facebook post, owner Louis Frango said, "My favorite part of the new building is the ambiance. It's open, new, fresher, a bigger wine selection. We went with a new menu. We kept the old. We added some new health conscious. We have some new vegetarian dishes, a wide variety for all of Fayetteville and Hope Mills. We went with more steaks and seafood too." Carrabba's. Restaurant delivery in Fayetteville now includes Carrabba's Italian Grill at 4209 Sycamore Dairy Road. The delivery will be by a uniformed Carrabba's team member, not a third-party company. Delivery for dinner starts at 4 p.m. each day with signature dishes and buffet and family bundles for up to 5 available. There are 10 different bundle options, each with a family-sized serving of warm bread and fresh salad. Carrabba's food is so good, too. Okay, we're going to stop for our announcements. In an effort to support our mission and our continued financial success, we will be hosting our 8th annual golf tournament on Saturday, April the 7th at 2018 at Gates 4 Golf and Country Club starting at 11 a.m. Tee-off will be at 12 p.m. With your support of $100, your sponsorship will include additional advertisement and hole signage. A corporate sponsorship of $300 will include all of the above, and 4 players will be eligible to play for free. So if you can pass the word on, or if you can play, or if you can sponsor, please help us out. We'd appreciate it. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions, please call us at 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-56 856. And with our golf tournament, any donation is tax deductible. Just wanted to add that. All right, back to our articles. In the Business Observer, under management, Janet Gibson has been named Director of Marketing and Communications for the Arts Council of Fayetteville, Cumberland County. She has worked as a reporter and editor for newspapers and magazines from Texas to Washington, D.C., and from North Carolina to Florida. She has led newspaper, magazine, and marketing teams to international, national, and state awards. Lane Gardner, a veteran park ranger, has been promoted to Superintendent of Lumber River State Park in Robeson County, succeeding Neil Lee. He has joined the division in 2003 as a park ranger in Jones Lake State Park, transferred to Singletary Lake State Park in 2010, and returned to Jones Lake in 2013 as an advanced park ranger. Lee retired after 23 years of service at the park. Patrick Ebrey has joined Southeastern Health as Vice President of Talent and Culture and Chief Engagement Officer. He has more than 20 years of healthcare executive experience and with in-depth knowledge of hospital operations and human resources functions. He was previously at Southeast Georgia Health System in Brunswick, Georgia. His areas of responsibility will include human resources, guest services, telecommunications, the gift shop at Southeastern Regional Medical Center, pastoral care services, and the Department of Learning and Professional Development. On the job, Summer Bryant Cook, a nurse practitioner, has joined Southeastern Spine and Pain, an affiliate of the Southeastern Health. She is a certified geriatric nurse practitioner, having most recently been with Palmetto Family Medicine in Cheraw, South Carolina. She's also worked with McLeod Regional Medical Center in Florence, South Carolina. Danielle Chavis, a certified physician assistant, has joined Lumberton Children's Clinic as part of Children's Health of Carolina, PA. Appointments. Robin Perkins, CEO of Frontier Spinning Mills in Sanford, has been elected to the Board of Directors of the National Cotton Council for 2018. He was also re-elected as a director to the Cotton Council International, the NCC's export promotion arm. The Memphis-based NCC brings together industry representatives from the 17 cotton-producing states to establish policies reflecting the common interest in promoting mutual benefits for its broad membership and ancillary industries. Mark Wilson Daughtry, James L. Lamb, and Brandon Warren, all of Clinton, Michael E. Inman of Tar Heel, and Gay D. Crowther of Tabor City have been appointed to the 2018 National Pork Producers Delegate body of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Secretary Sonny Perdue. They are among 157 producers and 6 importers nationwide. The others from North Carolina are Jim Lynch of Goldsboro, Brian Joseph Kennedy of Pink Hill, Christina Phillips of Wallace, Santiago Vasquez of Hampstead, and Everett H. Johnson of Siloam. Gregory Calder of Lumberton has been appointed to the State Board of Registered Environmental Health Specialist Examiners as a public-spirited citizen by Governor Roy Cooper. Calder is owner and president of GMC Construction in North Carolina, a former county health inspector. Achievements. Highland Construction and Restoration has been recognized with the Golden Hammer Award for exemplary performance and dedication in 2016. Highland also won in 2011, 12, 14, and 15. The award is given to the top 200 contractors of 4,500 nationwide based on the Performance Objective Monitoring System scores. Regionally, Highland earned the 2017 Performance Excellency Award for the Tennessee Valley District. Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina, headquartered in Fayetteville, named Holly and Justin Miller as recipients of the 2018 Innovative Farmer of the Year. The Millers own and operate Cherry Hill Farm in Davie County. community of Advance, about 20 miles southwest of Winston-Salem. They grow soybeans, small grains, strawberries, summer and winter squash, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, lettuces, cabbage, broccoli, kale, green beans, and sweet corn. That's wonderful. In business, David H. Phillips, former lawyer for the Cumberland County Board of Education and former assistant district attorney, has opened a law firm specializing in surety, forfeiture, law, employment, education, criminal, and wills and estates. The Cool Spring Clubhouse, LLC, owned by Annette O'Keefe, has opened at 100 Hay Street. Cool Spring is an education-based drop-in center that allows parents to take their children downtown and enjoy a safe educational environment while they run errands, shop, enjoy date night, or attend meetings. Odds and ends. Cape Fear Flooring and Restoration at 2727 Hope Mills Road celebrated its new 4,000 square foot flooring showroom with a day-long event to include ribbon cuttings by the Fayetteville and Hope Mills Chamber of Commerce. To share a story or idea or a concern, call 486-3570 or send email to business@fayobserver.com. For questions about stock listings or to request coverage of a stock, call 486-3500. For a listing in the Business Observer on Sundays, send items of local interest to business@fayobserver.com, including a phone number. Our mailing address is the Fayetteville Observer Business Desk, P.O. Box 849, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28302. Town hopes for hole-in-one. Hope Mills. Okay, this is all about Hope Mills. Susan King used to hit balls at the former Hope Mills golf course. Now, no trespassing signs warn her and everyone else to stay away. We could easily walk over there and play 9 holes, said King, who lives on Golfview across from the course. We played all the time over there when we first got here 8 years ago. When it started wearing down, we didn't go over there as often. Once a green haven for golfers, the course has been empty and inactive for years. Since the Hope Mills Golf Club shut down, it was losing money. Now, the approximate 90 acres rests like a diamond in the fast-growing town that is starved for recreational space. 2 leaders are unanimous in their desire that the site remain recreational, but beyond that, there is little consensus about how it should be used. Ideas such as indoor swimming pools, splash pads, ball field, and bike and walking trails have been floated, and the public space is being polled to get their ideas. It's a beautiful area, said Hope Mills Commissioner Meg Larson. I think we should take advantage of the natural setting. The land that would become the Hope Mills Golf Course was donated to the town by Dixie Yarns, one of several textile mills that used to operate in Hope Mills are now gone. The first golf course apparently opened on the property in the 1930s. A 1987 article in the Fayetteville Observer said the first 9 holes of the course were built under the auspices of the Work Progress Administration during the Great Depression, making it one of the first courses built specifically for public use. Another 9 holes were added later. The course operated under many different managers and names throughout the years. In the 1980s, it was known as Deer Run Resort and Racket Club. It has helped people that managed it, people that leased it, said Hope Mills Mayor Jackie Warner. At one time, one of the owners had a clubhouse and a swimming pool. All that's gone. It's been torn down. By 2014, the golf course had fallen on hard times. L.B. Wilson, who operated what was by that time called the Hope Mills Golf Club, announced that year he was closing. Wilson cited a downturn in business coupled with recent cold weather that kept golfers off the links. At the time, Wilson told a reporter that he believed the property would never be a golf course again. And with that, the town had 90 acres to decide what to do with and no clear plans for its use. The issue is an important one for the town, which has seen its need for recreation increase with its population. According to U.S. Census Bureau statistics, the town population as of July 1, 2016 was 16,227. In 2010, it was 15,654, and in 2000 it was 11,237. Warner said the town's property adjoins about 30 acres that belongs to a private owner and about 20 acres owned by the YMCA of the Sandhills. She said the driveway and parking area does not belong to the town. That would have to be a part of the plan. Access, driveways, parking, Warner said. Last year, the town contracted with the McAdams Company of Durham to come up with a plan for how to best use the former golf course. McAdams began informally polling residents on what they would like to see there. Questionnaires were distributed at the town events, and a stakeholders committee was established last year to make recommendations on the property. A. McAdams representative told the town board of commissioners that it has received 686 surveys. McAdams did not return phone calls asking about the results of the surveys. Last month, McAdams told the board it would be better to do a comprehensive town parks and recreation study instead of just focusing on the golf course. The board decided to go that route. The golf course plan was budgeted at about $49,000. The comprehensive plan will cost about $87,000. Warner said that means a decision on what to do with the golf course property will probably come after the town tackles other projects in the works, such as the Hope Mills Lake Park, Heritage Park, and the Town Museum. Another big project the town is facing, unrelated to parks and recreation, is building a new police and fire complex to replace the crowded facilities. We're looking several years down the road before we're looking at doing something with the golf course, Warner said. It's not that we're forgetting it, it's just going to be part of the total plan. Still, there's pressure to do something with the property. Town Commissioner Jerry Legg said during a recent Board of Commissioners meeting that if it costs as much as $1,800 a month during the growing season to keep the property mowed and cleared, the longer we wait, the more we spend on maintenance with nothing on it, Legg said. So the property still represents a potential jewel in the part of the town that will be seeing significant growth in coming years. Two-lane Golfview is slated to be widened as the outer loop, also known as North Carolina 295, and future Interstate 295 is extended around Hope Mills. According to the State Department of Transportation, the loop is scheduled to be extended from Camden Road to I-95 by July 2021 and from Rayford to Camden Roads by 2022. To be clear, the property doesn't look much like a jewel in its current state. No trespassing and no dumping signs dot the property. A metal building stands on the site. A faded Hope Mills golf course sign depicts a fox putting a ball. Pine needles cover many of the asphalt paths that wind through the property's rolling hills. Downed limbs and pine cones are piled up in some areas, but the sheer size and location of the property make it attractive in a sports-happy town where parkland is at a premium. Residents have their own ideas of what they would like to see on the property. Susan Keene, who used to golf on the course, laments that she is no longer allowed to even walk on the property per the no trespassing signs. She said police do a good job of patrolling the area. I would like to see something to do with golfing again, or baseball, Keene said. There's too many kids running around the streets. They need more fields for these kids to play on. Keene also knows what she doesn't want on the property. I can't see a water park, she said. David Nash, who lives in the Eaglewood subdivision across the street from the old golf course, said he thinks the property represents a potential boon for the Hope Mills community. I'd like to see sports, a way to bring people in for sports tournaments, Nash said. It's a great opportunity for them to take some business away from Fayetteville. Laydell Williams was working in his Eaglewood yard on a recent Sunday afternoon. He too has ideas about the golf course property. It would be nice to have a full YMCA with a pool in the back, Williams said. It would be nice to have some outdoor playground equipment for the kids too. Town officials have heard from their constituents about what might best fit on the former golf course, and they have their own ideas as well. John Hodges, a former Hope Mills police chief, is one of the 13 members of the Stakeholders Committee. He said as far as he knows, the committee has never met. Hodges said his personal preference would be to reopen a golf course on the property, but he recognizes that it's unlikely to happen given the history of the last golf course. Some of the scuttlebutt around the restaurants is they'd like to see some soccer recreation type fields there. Somebody even said something about disc golf, he said. That's some of the talk I hear. Nothing formal. Legg, who has long been active in town athletics as a coach and in other capacities, said he would like to see a wagon wheel baseball and softball complex that would attract tournaments that would pump dollars into the Hope Mills economy, he believes. Other ideas Legg has heard include a walking trail, splash pad, and amphitheater. The amphitheater is a big thing on my list, Legg said. Who knows, maybe you could bring some big people in. Commissioner Jesse Bell Flowers said he'd like to see an aquatic center that would include a pool that could be used by senior citizens for water aerobics and the general population. Members of Hope Mills High School swim teams who now must use a pool at Fayetteville State University or elsewhere could stay in town to get their practice in, he said. But Bell Flowers said he sees no reason why the property can't be utilized now, instead of laying fallow while the town determines its ultimate use years from now. People ask me continuously, why can't we walk around the path around the golf course? Bell Flowers said, I've asked the same question. If it was open, I would walk it as a citizen. Hopefully they'll figure out what they will be doing there. Okay. Have to grab a few more articles. Hold on, please. Okay, I am back. Arena employee recalls Big Show's artist. When Janet Patterson worked a show in the late 1970s and early 1980s, it usually meant a long day and night. By day, she worked as the publicity director for the Cumberland County Memorial Arena and the auditorium. On nights, she worked in ticket sales and did whatever was needed to accommodate the artist and made the show come off to everyone's satisfaction. She would pick up her son Jeff from school while she worked. Show roadies would put him on one of the large wooden boxes used to transport equipment, and the Cumberland County Sheriff's Deputy Tom Harris kept an eye on him. One day during a show with the singer Natalie Cole, Patterson went to check on Jeff. He wasn't there, she says. I asked, what happened to my child? They were like, Natalie took him. I was like, took him where? I go downstairs to the dressing room. Here he is in a big chair eating. She's like, he's the cutest little thing. She was just so kind to him. Jeff says today, I just remember she was really tall. Patterson, who is 69, works as an account executive at Radio's Beasley Broadcasting. She says that for the 5 years she worked as a county employee for the arena, she didn't worry about her son at shows. Back in the arena days, everything was family, says Patterson, whose maiden name is Jackson. We spent so many hours there. You got to remember, in those days, shows were on type of shows. Even when the promoters came in, they were part of the family. Patterson's son figures into several of her stories. Artists seem to like the kid. She says Jeff was influenced by her own hippie brothers. He had the biggest afro, she says, a little face and a big afro. When Prince came to town in 1981 and played to a crowd of maybe 1,000, Jeff listened to the show on a set of steps just off the stage. Prince stopped to talk to the boy on his way off stage, and Jeff wound up eating in the green room with the singer. He's been a die-hard Prince fan ever since, Patterson said. At that time, a promoter told Patterson that in 2 years you won't be able to get a ticket to this show because Prince was so popular. Prince would be so popular. She says, I kind of giggled and I said, yeah. Patterson remembers in 1980 when singer-songwriter Bob Seger was in town for a couple of days in support of Against the Wind. Seger needed some sneakers. I was the one that the ladies in the arena were like, Janet will do it, she says. Seger asked if there was a Kmart around, and Patterson drove him to the one on Bragg Boulevard. Jeff went along. She cannot remember what brand he got, but Seger wore them for the show that night. Jeff said they were Chuck Taylors. She describes Seger as down to earth. From what I remember, a kind gentleman, very professional. Patterson experienced firsthand the mercurial nature of putting on concerts in a city where walk-up business often greatly outpaces advanced ticket sales. She said a concert featuring the soul band, the Brothers Johnson, posted anemic advanced sales, and she and the other women working the ticket box were preparing for a slow night. Instead, lines started forming as soon as they opened around 4:30 or 5. And money came in so fast the women were tossing cash on the floor of the booth for another employee to scoop. The show sold out. The staff was exhausted. The promoter came, and usually you don't see them afterwards, but the promoter for that particular show the next day bought steak dinners for everybody in the office and flowers. So that's how hard we worked that night. There were a few tough moments too. Patterson was working in tickets when the staff had to issue refunds for advance tickets to the Elvis concert that never happened, originally scheduled for August the 25th, 1977. That was one of the saddest days, she said. The rock icon died on August the 16th of that year. Many fans kept their tickets for sentimental reasons. The arena, Patterson recalls, donated money from the show to Cape Fear Valley Hospital to purchase medical equipment. Patterson enjoyed all of the events that came to the Crown, and more importantly, she says, she got to the people she got to meet. Professional wrestling was Mondays, and she and other staffers knew what part of the arena their regular fans liked to sit. The Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus was a recurring event, and Patterson laughed at the time she tried to ride one of the elephants and wound up clutching to an ear for dear life. A moment captured in the Fayetteville Observer. The call of doing radio pulled her from the arena job, but she looks on that 5-year span as one of the greatest times she's had. She still sees people who went to shows and remember that she worked them. Patterson says the people she worked with made her experience special. She speaks fondly of Carlton Marley, June Marley, Jack Shans, Blay Gamble, Susan Pallone, Catherine Feltman, and Margie Crumley. These people taught me so much, she says. How you treat everyone, whether it's the rock audience to the wrestling audience to the urban music audience. You treated everyone with respect. If you could go back and write your life story, that was 5 years of my life, I wouldn't trade for anything. There's a picture included with this article, and these tickets are for the Elvis Presley concert. That's kind of cool, because these people have kept these tickets as a sentimental thing. I think it's kind of sweet. Alright. Joshua Choi, it's my job. How long? Joshua Choi is the owner of Winter Bloom Tea. How long have you been working at Winter Bloom Tea? We've been open since October of 2016, and I've been here since day one. How did you get into this line of work? It started with my own health issues. I started having abnormally high blood pressure and wanted a better way of dealing with it than prescription drugs. I started to learn all about the health benefits associated with tea and thought to myself, why we aren't all drinking this magical liquid. Through my research, I quickly learned there are different quality teas. Most bagged tea had little to no health benefits. This started a journey to find excellent quality loose tea in Fayetteville to no avail. Having the opportunity to travel to China and really experience some amazing teas, my taste for tea became spoiled. In short, I turned my obsession into a business. What is it that you love about the job? I love the people that find our store. We have such an amazingly diverse group of people in Fayetteville, and to be able to share the love of tea with them is a dream come true. What is the hardest part about this job? I'm not the most organized person. It is hard for me to stay focused and make sure I do all the back office necessities. Being a class 9 procrastinator, I'm steadily learning to become better at time management. That sounds like me. What about you to the Fayetteville area? My family has been in Fayetteville over 20 years now. My parents came for work, and when things did not work out, they started managing a dry cleaners downtown. They have been owning and operating Ideal Cleaners for the past 15 years. I owe so much to them for teaching me the aspects of being a small business owner and giving me the confidence to go out and pursue my passion. If there was any other profession that you could consider than this, what would it be? My parents tell me I've always been a talker. Sounds like me too. It's hard to imagine another profession because I get to serve tea and talk to people about their day. It really doesn't get any better than that. Amen. Having said that, it's always interested me in being a pilot fighter. Okay. Maybe you can go find him. Winter Bloom Tea. Or maybe have someone find them for you and you sit back and you enjoy the tea from his business. I went to prison for disclosing the CIA's torture. I was inside the CIA's Langley, Virginia headquarters on September 11th, 2011. Like all Americans, I was traumatized, and I volunteered to go overseas to help bring Al-Qaeda's leaders to justice. I headed counterterrorism operations in Pakistan from January to May 2002. My team captured dozens of Al-Qaeda fighters, including senior training camp commanders. One of the fighters whom I played an integral role in capturing was Abu Zubaydah, mistakenly thought to be at the time the third-ranking person in the militant group. By that May, the CIA had decided to torture him. When I returned to CIA headquarters that month, a senior officer in the Counterterrorism Center asked me if I wanted to be trained in the use of enhanced interrogation techniques. I had never heard the term, so I asked what it meant. After a brief explanation, I declined. I said that I had a moral and ethical problem with torture, and that the judgment of the Justice Department notwithstanding, I thought it was illegal. Unfortunately, there were plenty of people in the U.S. government who were all too willing to allow the practice to go on. One of them was Gina Haspel, who President Donald Trump nominated Tuesday as the CIA's next director. Putting Haspel in charge of the CIA would undo attempts by the agency and the nation to repudiate torture. The message that this sends to the CIA workforce is simple. Engage in war crimes, in crimes against humanity, and you'll get promoted. Don't worry about the law. Don't worry about the ethics. Don't worry about the morality or the fact that torture doesn't even work. Go ahead and do it anyway. We'll cover for you, and you can destroy the evidence too. Described in the media as a seasoned intelligence veteran, Haspel has been at the CIA for 33 years, both at headquarters and in senior positions overseas. Now the deputy director has tried to stay out of the public eye. Mike Pompeo, the outgoing CIA director and Secretary of State designee, has lauded her uncanny ability to get things done and inspire those around her. I'm sure that's true for some, but many of the rest of us who knew and worked with Haspel at the CIA called her Bloody Gina. I will not have time to finish this article. My time is up. I'm so sorry because it sounds so interesting. This concludes our reading of the Sunday Fayetteville Observer. Your radio host has been Wanda. Coming up next, the broadcast of the Harnett County News, the Rayford News Journal, and the Robesonian. I've enjoyed being with you this evening. Thank you for tuning me in. Have a wonderful day.
Hey, sweetie.
How you doing, darling?
I'm doing just peachy keen.
Good.
It's a good day.
Yes, ma'am. Beautiful day.
Yeah. Oh, I left my purse in there.
Record News Journal's the other movie.
Okay. Okay.
Fayetteville Observer Sunday.
Okay.
Another portion of it.
Okay. I've got my. Oh no, my purse is in there. My things are in my purse, and it's in the other room. Can you get my purse?
Oh yeah.
From the other room? I'm sorry. Damn it. Thank you.
Hey, where are you? Okay. All right, I'm coming out. Okay, bye-bye.
Oh yeah, you gotta change this.
Partner agency. Am I on? I can't hear me. Okay, I'm sorry. We are located on the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. Today is Monday, the 19th?
Yes.
The 19th of March, and your radio hosts today are Carolyn.
And Robert.
And today we will be reading from the Rayford News Journal and the Sunday Fayetteville Observer. And we'll start with the Sunday Fayetteville Observer.
Okay, Bragg Paratrooper is Coming Home by Drew Brooks, military editor. The letters have stayed in the family for decades.
No, I'm not in.
No. Handwritten accounts of Staff Sergeant David Rosencrantz service in the 82nd Airborne Division amid World War II. They were mailed from Fort Bragg, Italy, and England, and serve as a window into the life of one of the nation's first paratroopers. But the letters never answered the question that has bothered Rosencrantz's family for more than 73 years. Where was he? Last week, the family finally got their answer. On Thursday, the Defense Prisoner of War Missing in Action Accounting Agency announced that Rosencrantz's remains were identified and that they were on their way to the family in Los Angeles for a burial in the United States. Rosencrantz fought with H Company 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment. He made combat jumps into Sicily and Holland and participated in the historic Wall River crossing during Operation Market Garden. On September 28, 1944, after German tanks and infantry launched a major attack on his unit, he went missing. According to DPAA, Rosencrantz's platoon was occupying a farm near the town of Grosbeek when they were attacked by an overwhelming force. The isolated paratroopers hid among sparse trees and buildings, officials said. As Rosencrantz rose from his position, enemy gunfire erupted and Rosencrantz was killed. Due to enemy fire and the proximity to enemy troops, Rosencrantz's remains could not be recovered, the DPAA said. Decades later, his remains were found with the help of several Dutch citizens, the Royal Netherlands Army's Recovery and Identification Unit, and the American Battle Monuments Commission, officials said. Philip Rosencrantz, a nephew who has been searching for his uncle's remains for nearly 2 decades, said the discovery helps bring closure to the family. The younger Rosencrantz is a professor emeritus in the Industrial and Manufacturing Engineering Department at California Polytechnic University in Pomona. He was born in 1949, 5 years after his uncle went missing in Europe. His uncle was one of 5 brothers who served during World War II. Philip Rosencrantz said the family plans to bury his uncle next to those brothers at Riverside National Cemetery, Southern California. "We think that's the best place for him," he said. "We're all really excited about being able to do this to his memory and give justice and finally get him to rest with his brothers." The nephew said he has learned that his uncle's remains were not identified immediately after the war because he was separated from his identification tags. And those tags were found near Groesbeek several years ago and returned to the family, he said. Officials found remains 2 years ago and recently made the match using DNA testing, Philip Rosencrantz said. "It's emotional," he said. "I'm stunned. We were waiting 18 or 19 years for this to happen." The nephew said he and other members of his family, none of Rosencrantz's siblings are alive today, have developed a greater understanding and respect for what their uncle accomplished through their efforts to find his remains and conversations with veterans who served with him. "When I grew up, nobody could tell me what happened to him," Philip Rosencrantz said. "Nobody told me the same story. It just became folklore. The truth is pretty amazing to know." The discovery was praised Saturday by the unit Rosencrantz served with in World War II. The 82nd Airborne Division is grateful to the Rosencrantz family and the Dutch officials who saw this to its conclusion, Division spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Lucino said. David Rosencrantz was an original All-American paratrooper. Bringing him home and properly honoring him is important to us. Rosencrantz, born in Los Angeles in October of 1916, was 27 years old at the time of his death. He worked at a General Motors plant before enlisting in the Army in February of 1942. In his letters, which his nephew has posted online, the soldier described how the 82nd Airborne Division prepared for war. "Life goes on as usual around here," he wrote on March 17, 1943. "We keep training, and although it gets monotonous sometimes, we always learn something new." News accounts of the war also mentioned Rosencrantz. Several American newspapers in July of 1943 told a story of how Rosencrantz and another soldier, Corporal Lee Black of Jackson, Tennessee, captured 200 Italian soldiers. According to reports, Rosencrantz sprained his ankle during the combat jump into Sicily on the early morning of July 10, 1943. He and Black hid until daylight so that he could recover and set out walking to find the rest of their unit, but instead marched into the group of Italian soldiers. "They captured us," Rosencrantz told an American reporter who wrote about the incident. But then strange things began to happen. They held a conference and decided to turn themselves over to us, for they heard that Americans were only 8 kilometers away. According to the report, Rosencrantz and Black collected the Italian troops' weapons and then marched them to American forces. They were singing and just about raising hell, Rosencrantz recalled, and a couple of them remarked that they hoped they would be sent to a prison camp in the United States. A soldier was later quoted during accounts of the fighting near Nijmegen in the Netherlands.
Nijmegen.
Oh, okay. Good.
Or
Nijmegen.
Nijmegen if you're going to do it the way they do it.
And it doesn't sound the way it looks, does it?
No, it doesn't.
In the Netherlands, which were published just days after his death. Nijmegen did not last as long as Sicily, Salerno, and Anzio, Rosencrantz told a foreign correspondent of the Indianapolis Times, but it was tougher and bloodier while it lasted.
I can't use my headphones because they're too loud, but if you could turn it down a little bit, it is way too loud on me. Okay, much better. St. Patty's well, it doesn't help my reading any. St. Patty's pub crawl draws lively crowd. We feel this is a resounding success. And they've got 2 pictures here. The first is a couple of happy guys with green hats on their head, green bowlers. Sean Martin left and Johnny Bigelow right enjoy a green beer at Lake Gaston Brewing Company on Saturday. The brewery was one of 4 downtown restaurants that participated in the St. Patrick's Pub Crawl. And the next one is a smiling young lady with a tiny green hat on her head. Janetta Dunn drinks a green beverage outside of Husk Hardware on Saturday. And one more shows a whole crowd of people. I'm glad I'm not there. I don't like crowds, but and the one in front looks really unhappy, but everybody else behind is smiling and trying to get drinks. Crowds wait in line for drinks inside Bright Light Brewing Company on Saturday. The restaurant was one of four in downtown Fayetteville participating in the St. Patrick's pub crawl. Huh. I wonder why she's not happy. Well, maybe her boyfriend stood her up. This is by Michael Futch, staff writer. The sun had yet to fully set on downtown Fayetteville, and a good chunk of revelers already were filled with the spirits of St. Patty's Day. Saturday brought on the inaugural St. Patrick's Day pub crawl as three breweries and the newly named Third Base collaborated to host the walk-up participants. Eddie Ketchum, one of the brewery owners, said it was a good way to promote downtown business. From 5:30 to 9:30 p.m., people participating in the crawl made pit stops for heady craft brews on tap at the Bright Light Brewing Company, Husk Hardware, and the Lake Gaston Brewing Company. Those included the green beer that has become standard on this Irish national holiday. Third Base, which formerly operated as the Wing Company, also was serving alcoholic refreshment along with food. I think it's a fantastic idea. I hope it catches on, said David Alsop, a 35-year-old night manager at Husk Hardware on Hay Street. As one might expect, there was about as much green to be seen on the streets than at a Boston Celtics home game. Green t-shirts, green leprechaun hats, dark green safari hats, green ties, green purses, even couples in matching green. Those wearing green wristbands were able to catch rides on a horse carriage that took them from one brewery to the next. For women who didn't like beer, Allison Brown of Fayetteville recommended the wine margaritas at Bright Light. She and her husband Tom, among a group of 12, were carousing between brew pubs on Franklin Street. So far, he said, it's the quietest pub crawl I've ever been on. Inside Bright Light, off Russell Street, the crowd had reached its capacity of 90 people early in the evening. A line of roughly 25 partiers waited outside to get in. I don't think I'd stand in line for that, but then who knows? Among them, when I was younger. Among them, Patrick and Megan Estep of Spring Lake were waiting their turn. This was the couple's first stop of the night, and they were joined by another 7 or so who also lived in Spring Lake. Our only goal is to get drunk, said one blurted out. The Estep said it was all for fun. Outside the place, the husband and wife duo Brother Ellis was on stage, if you could call it that, wrapping up a jumping take on the country and bluegrass standard Rocky Top. Off to the side of the brewery, which was once part of a Fayetteville tire business, a neon beer light flashed off and on. I think we got overzealous with our combined radio ads, said Ketchum, one of the Bright Light owners, and got more people than we anticipated. At Third Base, patrons were bellied up to the bar and scattered around. Those standing tended to be an animated conversation with the music blaring. A bartender wore a shirt that read, "Tip me, I'm Irish." Troy Rasmussen, co-owner of Lake Gaston, reported that they had run out of corned beef and cabbage around 7 p.m. Fortunately, the green beer was still available. "This has been fantastic," he said. "We've been busy all day, St. Patty's. We can't be any happier with our partners. We feel this is a resounding success."
Why the Innocent End Up in Prison by John Grisham. It is too easy to convict an innocent person. The total of wrongful convictions in the United States is estimated to be somewhere between 2% to 10%. That may sound low, but when applied to a prison population of 2.3 million, the numbers become staggering.
And if it's you, it doesn't matter how low it is.
Can there really be 46,000 to 230,000 innocent people locked away? Those of us who are involved in exoneration work firmly believe so. Millions of defendants are processed through our courts each year. It's generally impossible to determine how many of them are actually innocent once they've been convicted. There are few resources for examining the cases and backgrounds of those claiming to be wrongfully convicted. Once an innocent person is convicted, it is next to impossible to get them out of prison. Over the last 25 years, the Innocence Project, where I serve on the board of directors, has secured through DNA testing the release of 349 innocent men and women, 20 of whom had been sent to death row. All told, there have been more than 2,000 exonerations, including 200 from death row in the U.S. during that same period. We're only scratched the surface. Wrongful convictions happen for several reasons, in no particular order. These causes are bad police work, Most cops are honest, hard-working professionals, but some have been known to hide, alter, or fabricate evidence, lie on the stand, cut deals in return for bogus testimony, intimidate and threaten witnesses, coerce confessions, or manipulate eyewitness identifications. Prosecutorial misconduct. Most prosecutors are also honest, hard-working professionals. Some have been known to hide exculpatory evidence, encourage witnesses to commit perjury, lie to jurors, judges, and defense lawyers, use the testimony of bogus experts, or ignore relevant evidence beneficial to the accused. False confessions. Most jurors find it impossible to believe that a suspect would confess to a serious crime he didn't commit. Yet the average citizen, if taken to a basement room and subjected to consecutive hours of abusive interrogation tactics by experienced cops, might be surprised at what they would say. Of the 330 people who were exonerated by DNA evidence between 1989 to 2015, about 25% gave bogus confessions at their lengthy interrogations. Almost everyone recanted soon after. Family eyewitness identification. More often than not, those who witness violent acts have trouble accurately recalling the facts and identifying those involved. Physical and photo lineups may exacerbate the problem because police manipulate them to focus suspicion on favored suspects. Jailhouse snitches. In every jail, there's a career criminal staring at a long sentence. For leniency, he can be persuaded to lie to the jury and describe in great detail the confession overheard from the accused, usually a cellmate. If he performs well enough on the stand, the authorities might allow him to walk free. Bad lawyering. Those accused of serious crimes rarely have money. Many are represented by good public defenders, but too many get stuck with court-appointed lawyers with little or no experience. Capital cases are complex and the stakes are enormous. All too often, the defense lawyers are in over their heads. Sleeping judges. Judges are supposed to be impartial referees intent on ensuring fair trials. They should exclude confessionals that are inconsistent with the physical evidence and obtained by questionable means. Exclude the testimony of career felons with dubious motives. Require prosecutors to produce exculpatory evidence and question the credentials and testimony of all experts outside the presence of the jury. Unfortunately, judges do not always do what they should. The reasons are many and varied, but the fact that many judges are elected doesn't help. They are conscious of their upcoming re-election campaigns and how the decisions they make might affect the results. Of those judges who are appointed rather than elected, the majority are former prosecutors. Junk science. Over the last 5 decades, our courtrooms have been flooded with an avalanche of unreliable, even atrocious science. Experts with qualifications that were dubious at best and fraudulent at worst have peddled, for a fee of course, all manner of damning theories based on their allegedly scientific analysis of hair fibers, bite marks, arson, boot prints, blood spatters, and ballistics. Of the 330 people exonerated by DNA tests between 1989 and 2015, 71% were convicted based on forensic testimony, much of which was flawed, unreliable, exaggerated, or sometimes outright fabricated. Brandon L. Garrett, a professor of law at University of Virginia, has studied nearly all of the trial transcripts from wrongful convictions later exposed by DNA-based exonerations. There's a national epidemic of overstated forensic testimony, with a steady stream of criminal convictions being overturned as the shoddiness of decades' worth of physical evidence comes to light, he wrote last year in The Baffler. The true scope of the problem is only now coming into focus. An excellent new book by Radley Balco and Tucker Carrington, The Cadaver King and the Country Dentist, chronicles the story of two of the most brazen experts ever allowed in a courtroom. Stephen Hain was a controversial forensic pathologist who once boasted of performing more than 2,000 autopsies in a single year. His sidekick, Michael West, was a small-town dentist who assumed the role of an expert in many other fields. Together they tag-teamed their way through rape and murder trials in Mississippi and Louisiana, accumulating an impressive string of convictions, several of which have been overturned. Some are still being litigated. Many others, however, seem destined to stand. It's a maddening indictment of America's broken criminal justice system in which prosecutors allowed, even encouraged, flawed forensic testimony because it was molded to fit their theories of guilt. For 2 decades, elected judges permitted these two professional testifiers to convince unsophisticated jurors that science was on the side of the state. The atrocities that occurred in Mississippi and Louisiana aren't specific to one time and place. The medical examiners, police officers, prosecutors, judges, and others who hold sway over our criminal justice system around the country have largely failed to deliver justice. We must do better. John Grisham is a writer best known for his popular legal thrillers. This piece was adapted from the foreword of The Cadaver King and The Country Dentist.
So he was also touting his book, but he has much to say, and you can watch the news and watch the programs and get an idea of, I'm not sure all of them are exactly right, but there are innocent in prison. There's no question about that. It was like going to heaven. Toys R Us will be closing in Fayetteville. That's an odd type. That's an odd headline and subhead. This is by Michael Futch, staff writer. Playtime is nearly over for Toys R Us in Fayetteville. With word already out on its impending closure, the store in Fayetteville was a busy place Saturday afternoon. Around 1 p.m., the store's parking lot off Skybow Road was nearly full, and plenty of customers inside were pushing shopping carts and perusing the shelves and racks for merchandise. Sales had not even started. As one sales associate put it, prices are as is. That, according to the company, will change. We expect the store closing sales to begin very soon, and our team members are standing by to help you take advantage of the deep discounts that will be available during the liquidation process, the large national retailer said in a Thursday news release. In that same announcement, Toys R Us said it plans to liquidate the inventory in all 735 of its stores in the United States and Puerto Rico. I wonder what they're going to... Yeah, well, maybe they'll tell us more. The chain filed for bankruptcy for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in September, a move prompted by $5 billion in debt. You know, that's beyond my comprehension. Can you have any idea how much $5 billion is? That reportedly hurt its attempts to compete as shoppers switched to Amazon and other big box stores such as Target and Walmart. Globally, the company has about 1,600 Toys R Us and Babies R Us stores. The vast majority are profitable. The retailer said in a September 18th news release, "I really hate to see Toys R Us close. I love this place," said Peggy Price, 71, of Fayetteville. "This is my favorite place to buy the grandkids' Christmas toys." At the time, she was pushing a great-grandson in a shopping cart, a curly, blonde-haired 2.5-year-old. At this point, the local store's management is not talking to the media. "We're not allowed to make comment," a store manager told a fellow staff member via walkie-talkie. The manager in charge of the front checkout area would not answer questions either. But the sales associate was helping a customer near the back of the store said employees had not been told anything. That, the person added, includes a closing date. Initially, the parent company had pledged to remain open. But Thursday's announcement made it clear that it would not be the case, at least for the extensive lineup of stores that do business in the U.S. and Puerto Rico. The Toys R Us in Fayetteville at 1736 Skybow Road has been a go-to shopping destination in the region since it first opened in the 1980s. It's the only real toy store, said 32-year-old Andy Chavez, who was about to enter the store with his wife Bianca and the couple's 2-month-old daughter. Chavez said they were looking for deals. Earlier, the Chavez had bought a baby crib from Toys R Us, and they were back to buy an optional rail that enables the crib to be modified for a toddler. They are both Puerto Rican, where Toys R Us also has a significant presence. Through her husband's English translation, Bianca Chavez said she has been coming to Toys R Us since she was a small child. "It was like going to heaven," he recalled from his boyhood perspective. "When you're a kid, you want to go to Toys R Us." Tiny Town on Fort Bragg Road has been selling furniture, clothing, shoes, and toys for children and babies for 67 years. Michael Fleischman is one of the owners of the business, which is a more traditional children's department store than the big box stores such as Toys R Us. "It stands to reason," Fleischman said, the tiny town could pick up more business from the pending loss of Toys R Us in the market. But he was quick to point out that his store carries different toys than Toys R Us. So in a way, Fleischman said, we've become two different animals. We'll see what happens. Retail is an ever-changing environment. Shauna Reynolds, a 28-year-old military spouse, was escorting her 3 children into Toys R Us early this afternoon. Aiden, 6, Beverly, 2, and Connor, 9 months. She said she was disappointed to hear of the pending closure. We figured we'd take advantage of it because they have gift cards from Christmas and their birthdays, Reynolds said from the parking lot. We'll probably be getting some clothes for the older 2 and a little something for the baby. We just bought a car seat for Connor. Reynolds said she was surprised that the local store was closing because of all the military personnel from Fort Bragg. You would think they would have more business with all the kids around here, she said. The military has so many kids. I imagine it's some of the other stores that are not profitable.
Meet your neighbor, Jill Charles. Music as a way of communication for singer-songwriter by Roger Mullen, staff writer. As Jill Charles pursues a country music career, she is also passing her love of music on to a younger generation. Charles, who has opened for acts including Colt Ford, Parma Lee, and Gary Sinise, has also been a substitute teacher for 11 years. Her most recent assignment has been at Honeycutt Elementary. They knew me as a singing substitute, she said. It's hilarious. Charles, 47, is from Elmira, New York. She started singing at age 8. While influenced by everything from Judy Garland to Madonna, Charles eventually settled on country music as her focus. Charles married Sergeant First Class Robert Charles III in 1999 and moved to his hometown of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The couple moved to Fayetteville 9 years ago. They have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. In Fayetteville, Charles has sung the national anthem at numerous military functions and opened for country acts at the Crown. She is a regular on WFNC and other radio stations and was a finalist in auditions for The Voice last year. Her CD, You Are Not Forgotten, is available on her website, jillcharles.com. Charles performs a mixture of cover songs and her own tunes. She is particularly proud of an original song, Cotton Candy Sky. Charles says the inspiration for the song came to her while she was sitting on the back deck of her home. A lot of times I'm seeing this gorgeous blue and pink sky, she said. It always reminds me of cotton candy. The song led to a career highlight for Charles. She said an organizer at the Carolina Artist Showdown Award Show heard her sing the song on WFNC and approached her about appearing on the show. Charles performed January 22nd at the show held at the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She performed with her band, Nobody's Business, which includes guitarist Jason Buckner, bass player Rick Lewis, and drummer Cornell Young. The band came in second in the competition, Charles said, performing Cotton Candy Sky. I didn't win, but it was still great to be there and perform, she said. Just an awesome opportunity. Every step I'm taking prepares me for something else. Competitions aside, Charles says she just enjoys reaching people with her music. That especially goes for her work as a music teacher. Some of Charles's students are autistic, she said. Recently, she was leading some of them in a music session. We played the bongos, and they just lit up, she said. We were all singing with them. As I played the bongos, this one child played it exactly like I played it and sang the song. We all stopped. I cried, and they cried. Staff writer Roger Mullen can be reached by emailing rmullen at fayobserver.com or by calling 486-3561.
And now we get Dear Abby. But before we get Dear Abby, I've got a little thing in here. Anniversary of Mr. and Mrs. Davis. Mr. and Mrs. Davis celebrate 60 years of marriage. James Davis of Bladenboro and Ann Davis of Abbotsburg will celebrate their 60th wedding anniversary with a cookout at their home surrounded by their children. The couple were wed on March 16, 1958 at Abbotsburg Baptist Church. Ann is retired from 40 years of banking, while James is retired from 22 years in the U.S. Air Force and 21 years at the North Carolina Department of Corrections. The Davises have 3 children, Jimmy Davis and wife Sabrina, Lynn Davis, and Michael Davis. The couple has 6 grandchildren, Scott, Eric, and Rachel Ann Cartledge, and Lauren, Alexa, and Susanna Davis. Good for them, and don't they look happy? And this is an older picture of them. All right, now to Dear Abby. Disabled blind. Oh, wait, before I do that, and I was just looking for this. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-5656, and you can even complain about me if you want to, but I hope not. Your radio hosts today are Carolyn
And Robert.
and we are proud to serve you today. Now, back to Dear Abby. Disabled wife is overwhelmed by husband's messy habits. Oh yes, I kicked doors yesterday, but then I'm even more messy, so I guess it evens out. Dear Abby, I am a disabled middle-aged woman married for 15 years. From the beginning, there was never much passion between my husband and me, but we're friends. And now I'm becoming less able to go out and do things, and I will eventually be wheelchair bound. I want to leave him so he can find someone who is able to do things with him. I actually did it at one point. I moved into a cheap mobile home, but he sold the house and followed me. He's a loving husband, but he is messy. I exhaust myself picking up after him, and 2 months after moving into another house, the entire garage and basement can be walked through. I really think what I want is to live alone in a simple, clean apartment. He and others tell me I need him, and I'm nuts to live alone on Social Security when I could stay in this nice house. I'm just so tired all the time, and cleaning up after him is torture physically. Should I stay or should I go? Exhausted in New Hampshire. Now, before I read Dear Abby, I'm going to say I think she's an idiot, and she should leave him because she doesn't like him particularly. That's not what you get married for, is it? Do you think, Robert?
No.
Okay, well, let's see what Dear Abby says. Although you didn't say it directly, your messy husband may be a hoarder. If that's the case, whether you stay or live elsewhere may depend upon his getting help for it, not to mention getting the garage and basement cleared out. Obviously, your husband loves you, or he wouldn't have followed you when you moved into the mobile home. Do not divorce him because you feel guilty about not being well. He may need you as much as you need him. If picking up after him is too tiring, then it may be time to get someone in periodically to clean. Well, that's probably more sensible advice than I had. Dear Abby, which is why she writes the programs and I don't. Dear Abby, my husband passed away last year after a 6-year struggle with Alzheimer's. It was a long and heartbreaking time for me. I have 2 sons, but they don't live close. I see them and their families only a few times a year. I have pretty much been alone since my husband's diagnosis. I have friends, all couples, but going out with them isn't comfortable. It's a very lonely life. I recently met a nice man who is divorced with no children. He has asked me to dinner. My problem is that he is 20 years younger. He says age doesn't matter to him, but I don't want to look like an old fool. I'm 84. Let me see, 84 to 64? We communicate by phone or email. I have not told anyone about this. We have so much in common. We like the same foods, same kind of music, and other things. I have always taken care of myself, and no one can believe my age. I'm not looking for marriage, but it would be nice to have someone to have dinner and good conversations with. I love to play golf, and so does he. Am I being foolish? Long time lonely. Dear long time lonely, no. Unless you have a sell-by date stamped on your forehead, you should not preoccupy yourself with the difference in your ages. You say you aren't looking for marriage, so why not have an enjoyable time and see if a relationship evolves? You will have a happier life once you stop worrying about what other people may or may not think. It's called living your life. Good for her. I think that's excellent.
What to Do About Louis Farrakhan by Leonard Pitts Jr. And here we are again, back to the same question. What to do about Louis Farrakhan? The leader of the Nation of Islam has for years been a toxic fount of anti-Semitic and homophobic rhetoric. These false Jews, he preached in 2006, promote the filth of Hollywood that is seeding the American people and the people of the world and bringing you down in moral strength. It's the wicked Jews, the false Jews that are pronouncing and promoting lesbianism, homosexuality. It's the wicked Jews, false Jews, that make it a crime for you to preach the word of God. Then they call you homophobic. The hatred in those words is as clear as if they had been spoken by David Duke, as indeed they easily could have been. And faced with that hatred, the obligation of moral people would seem obvious. Condemn it loudly, condemn it with vigor, condemn it unflinchingly. But for some African Americans, it has never been that easy where Farrakhan is concerned. Consider Illinois Representative Danny Davis, asked about Farrakhan earlier this month by a reporter of the conservative Daily Caller. He danced like Baryshnikov around the NOI leader's record of Jew bashing. That's just one segment of what goes on in our world, Davis said. The world is so much bigger than Farrakhan and the Jewish question and his position on that and so forth. For those heavy into it, that's their thing, but it ain't my thing. To which there can be only one proper response. Huh? He's not the only one being questioned about the NOI leader. Women's March co-chair Tamika Mallory has also come under fire after news broke that she attended the nation's annual Savior's Day event in February, where Farrakhan delivered a keynote. The question of how black folks should or should not engage with him is thornier than an outsider may appreciate. Many of us are genuinely impressed by the NOI's philosophy of self-reliance and its record of turning black lives around. And when Farrakhan gets ranting on his pet hates, some of us tend to write it off to tolerate him as you would a doty uncle. That instinct is understandable, but hate demands more. Hate must be taken seriously, always. Farrakhan then requires a difficult balancing act. Anthony Clark, a teacher who is challenging Davis in the upcoming Democratic primary, has gotten the balance about as right as anyone. While making clear his respect for Farrakhan's record of black empowerment, he has also made clear, as he put it on Twitter, that Farrakhan or anyone who shares anti-Semitic or homophobic viewpoints should be called out. I don't care who they are. Davis argues that African Americans who support Farrakhan for his good deeds while ignoring or downplaying his anti-Semitism and homophobia are like the white people who claim to support Donald Trump for his promise of economic miracles while forgetting to care that he is a racist and a misogynist. It's a sobering thought. Yes, Louis Farrakhan has said and done some powerful things, but he's also said and done some things that are truly hurtful and reprehensible. So let's not rush to make harmless this doty uncle of the African American experience. Let's not fall into the trap of condemning bigotry when it comes toward people who look like us, but tolerating it when it comes from people who look like us. We are required to be better than that. There is, after all, a reason the obligation of moral people when faced with hatred seems obvious. Ultimately, it is. Leonard Pitts Jr., winner of the 2004 Pulitzer Prize for Commentary, is a columnist for the Miami Herald, 3511 Northwest 91 Avenue, Doral, Florida, 33172. Readers may write him via email at lpitts@miamiherald.com.
Okay, everything else can wait. The game is on. This is by Monica Holland. Growing up in North Carolina accounts for a few things. You probably have strong feelings about barbecue. You might know the correct pronunciation of Fafftown. Well, I don't. It's more than likely you can bait a hook. And you understand there is no greater well of basketball greatness than Tobacco Road. You or someone you know at some point had a pet named Duke, Perk, Muggsy, or Corch. Your kid might have a friend named Jordan, and don't think for a second that's a coincidence. Mama loves MJ. Tobacco Road basketball consumes all like the quicksand of 60s pulp. There's no escape. And your allegiance doesn't have to be justified by a pesky diploma. You can just pick a team. It's that simple. But don't take it lightly. The choice could have serious implications, like banning a specific shade of blue from your wardrobe for life. This time of year is peak frenzy for college basketball fans. You've probably seen someone's alley-oop this weekend, whether you wanted to or not. March Madness is upon us in all its gilded glory. The Wolf Pack has been subpoenaed by the FBI. The Tar Heels have just gotten out from under an academic scandal. I didn't know the Wolf Pack was subpoenaed by the FBI. Shows how much I pay attention to basketball. The Blue Devils' hopes are hanging on the definitive dirty player, and the Demon Deacons are terrible. Only one of these sins is unforgivable, and it has nothing to do with bribery, no-show classes, or gift checks. We love our hoops almost as much as we love our grandma's biscuits, and we have a hard time seeing flaws in either one. Just don't bring it up. There will be no logic. There will be accounting of national championships with no accounting for improper benefits. We're just not going to let go of the innocence of those Friday afternoons during the ACC tournament when the science teacher would wheel out that rickety cart with the TV on it so we could all see Steve Hale on the receiving end of a backdoor pass. We will cling to our commemorative Coke bottles from the 1982 and 83 national championships delivered by UNC and NC State respectively. We will always point to Tim Duncan as the ultimate example of how to behave on the hardwood. And we can claim 13 national titles since 1957. Duke's double from the 92-93 seasons fit in there. I was vacationing with my best friend when Lattner sank UNLV. She was from a family of UNC fans, and they weren't about to let me defile the VCR with a Duke victory, so I used a camcorder to make a homemade bootleg. I remember Country Crossroads vandalized with blue feet and black heels one year, and a big red S the next. The first king I bothered to research was King Rice. I wasn't sure who shot J.R., but I knew the shooting percentage of J.R. Reed. When I threaded a pass to my taller friend in transition from P.E., we'd high-five on the way back down court. She'd nod and say, "Fire and ice," in 2 syllables. Back when the pack was cardiac and we hadn't yet been exposed to the underbelly of collegiate money-making, one could take comfort in a clean, pure hatred of all things Krasuski, or Dean, or Jimmy V. And on the flip side was a weird elation over something so seemingly unimportant when you really think about it. But why kill the magic with reason? It's so much more fun to ride the madness all the way to that one shining moment when Villanova probably will hoist the trophy for the second time in 3 years. I don't feel great about the chances for UNC or Duke to win at all this year, but I'll be watching every minute. Sunday Life editor Monica Holland can be reached at mholland and it's cut off, but it must be at fayobserver.com.
Okay.
Putin has a chemical weapons problem by Leonid Brzezinski. Russian President Vladimir Putin has shrugged off criticism over his annexation of Crimea, sanctions over his meddling in Ukraine, and attacks over Russian interference in the U.S. elections. It will be much harder to shrug off international outrage over the use of a chemical agent in a NATO ally. No matter what they say officially, neither U.S. nor European officials are particularly bothered about Ukraine, a poor, corrupt country on the Soviet periphery that the West isn't bound by any treaties to defend. So sanctions on Russia for invading Ukraine and fomenting unrest there have been weak. It also has been hard for the U.S. to get European cooperation for any retaliatory measures tied to the election meddling issue. The use of chemical weapons is a different story. The Chemical Weapons Convention, which bans them, has 192 signatory states and one fewer than the United Nations Charter. It's one of the most universally approved international documents in history. Breaking it can entail far more serious sanctions than those Russia has faced for its earlier attempts to assert itself globally. After former Russian military intelligence officer Sergei Skripal and his daughter were poisoned, apparently with a Russian-developed nerve agent known as Novichok in Salisbury earlier this month, Moscow has failed to engage meaningfully with the UK to clarify the incident. Of course, the UK government baited the Kremlin, demanding an answer within 24 hours. Prime Minister Theresa May and her ministers must have known they'd only get an angry rebuke this way. But it's also clear that Russia doesn't have a good response. In a speech to the United Nations Security Council on Wednesday, Russian Ambassador Vasily Nebensia laid out what he had. There was the usual verbiage about the presumption of innocence and a weird Sherlock Holmes reference that, judging by the British representative's puzzled face, didn't really work. But Nebensia's arguments also included the following substantive points. The Russian Federation has not conducted any scientific studies or research and development under the code name Novichok. The UK hasn't made a formal request for information under Article 9 of the Chemical Weapons Convention, nor has it provided material proof of Russian involvement, such as samples of the substance used against Skripal. Russia has nothing to fear or hide from an independent investigation by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. In 1992, Russia stopped all Soviet chemical weapons programs, and by 2017, the remaining stocks were fully destroyed. Since the early 1990s, some Russian scientists involved in the chemical weapons program moved to the West and continued their work in the US and the UK. Their output is, for some reason, classified in the West as Novichok. There's no way to identify a toxic substance unless one has its formula. If the UK has identified the nerve agent used against Skripal, it must have its formula and be capable of manufacturing it. The attempted murder of Skripal would have been of no benefit to the Russian government ahead of the March 18th presidential election and the upcoming Soccer World Cup. That's a weak defense for several reasons. One is that Nevenja's Novichok statement is carefully formulated to deny what the UK isn't claiming. In 1992, Vil Mirzanyov, a chemist who had worked on the Soviet chemical weapons program since the 1960s, disclosed that Novichok agents, also known as A230 and A232, were produced under a program called Fayettville. During Mirzanyanov's 1992-1994 Russian trial, the research institute where he had worked reported work on the substances described by the whistleblower as nerve agents more powerful than the US-developed VX had been sanctioned by several 1980s resolutions of the Soviet Communist Party's Central Committee. So was the development of binary weapons, which produced the poisonous compounds through a reaction between seemingly innocuous substances. It was the Soviet Union, not the Russian Federation, that conducted the research and development, and the program was known as Fayettville, not Novichok. That name was used just for the compounds themselves. But that doesn't eliminate the possibility of Russia's maintaining both stocks and production of the chemicals. Nevenja's demands that the incident be handled under the CWC and by the OPCW are another reason his argument doesn't hold water. Russia, of course, has positive experience with the OPCW in Syria, where the U.S. says President Bashar al-Assad's troops are using chemical weapons, and Russia insists they aren't. The OPCW has thoroughly investigated a number of incidents but has been reluctant to apportion blame. But in the Skripal case, both the UK and Russia are in a position to know the OPCW is likely to draw a blame, as Mirzanyanov wrote in his book, State Secrets. Despite my revelations and the ratification of the CWC by Russia, the Novichok program was not put under international control, and agents A230, A232, and their precursors and the binary components are not on the list of controlled compounds of CWC. This is very troubling because there are no guarantees that Russia isn't continuing such secret programs. There are extremely compelling reasons for amending the CWC to include these chemicals, but nothing has been done about it. On Wednesday, Vladimir Yuba, head of Russia's Federal Medical Biological Agency, confirmed this, saying Novichok was not covered by the CWC. The Russian government official has said clearly that Russia doesn't have stocks of Novichok or that it doesn't produce it. Of course, if keeping or producing these agents is not banned by the convention, Russia formally has, as Nevenjav said, nothing to fear or hide. But it's not certain that the international community, not just Western nations, but a broader set of UN members, will want to stand on formality and not on the spirit of the convention, whose purpose was to ban all chemical weapons of mass destruction. And a strong statement on Thursday condemning the first offensive use of a nerve agent in Europe since World War II, the leaders of the UK, Germany, France, and the US called on Russia to declare the Novichok program to the OPCW. That leaves the final part of Nevenja's argument, that Western nations likely had the capacity to produce the chemical used on Skripal, and that Russia had nothing to gain by using it. I find that hard to support. Hits on people the Russian intelligence service consider traitors, such as Skripal or Alexander Litvinenko, poisoned with polonium in the UK in 2006, are meant to deliver the message that traitors aren't safe anywhere. Such decisive action could only help Putin in the presidential election. His core electorate supports such shows of strength and wile. But the election isn't free or fair anyway, so there's no reason to bring it into the conversation. As for the World Cup, it's too late to do anything about it. The UK has made no moves to withdraw its team. The UK is certainly not interested in using a nerve agent on its own soil, just despite Russia, even if one cynically considers it a distraction from May's Brexit problems, it can't last long enough to be of any real benefit to the Prime Minister. The Skripal case will not go away easily, and will probably haunt the Kremlin worse than any of its previous transgressions. The West won't, of course, wage an Iraq-style war on it, but harsher sanctions, including some from Europe, are suddenly a revived possibility. Leonid Verchitsky is a Bloomberg View columnist. He was the founding editor of the Russian business daily Vedomosti, founded the opinion website Slon.ru.
I'm too glad the whole thing was entirely Russian names and initials. Good for you. Around the Water Cooler by Monica Holland. Harper Lee's estate is in its his, to the point of filing a lawsuit over Aaron Sorkin's treatment of Atticus Finch for a Broadway production of To Kill a Mockingbird. The Academy Award creator of The West Wing said in an interview that Finch's status as iconic defender of racial justice would evolve from a naive racist apologist. Lee's lawyers weren't on board, citing a contract she signed 8 months before her death in 2016 that promised the play would not alter characters or depart from the spirit of the novel. It's scheduled to open in December with Jeff Daniels in the leading role. I still associate Daniels with his character Flap from Terms of Endearment, and I will never forgive him for betraying Deborah Winger. But when is that going to hit Broadway? Actually, Google tells me it did run off-Broadway with Molly Ringwald in the role that won Shirley MacLaine an Oscar. Molly Ringwald was the grandma? Let that sink in. Lawsuits over future blockbusters are terribly unusual, and this too shall probably pass. While I have a deep reverence for the classics, I also appreciate new interpretations and the possibility of fresh angles when they're treated with respect. And Sorkin's hands are proven steady. Should we cling so tightly to our own beloved beliefs that we risk choking the life out of them? Art is a living thing, after all, that should evolve to engage generations beyond its initial audience. I'm willing, eager even, to let the creators create. If Sorkin hears more to the story that speaks from Lee's pages, then let him tell it. Well, I'm kind of not on board with that. I sort of think you should keep the original, and then you can write a new one if you want.
Some life lessons from a coaching dad by Peter St. Onge, the Charlotte Observer. Last month I walked off a basketball court with my 14-year-old son after our team's last game of the season. I was his coach. We lost in the playoffs. It was a bummer, but not as much as the thought that struck me then. This was probably the last time I would coach him or his 16-year-old brother. They're both either aging out of youth sports or playing beyond the level where dads do the coaching. It's a little sad, same as the other on-ramps and off-ramps we travel as parents. Some of you might be on the other end of this journey, coaching your son or daughter in youth sports for the first time. A lot of you have your first practices this month. Maybe you have lots of plans and drills ready. Maybe you have nothing but the anxiety of a dozen little faces looking up and awaiting your coaching wisdom. My advice? Relax. You'll be fine, and sometimes you won't. We'll get to that later. First, my credentials. Coached my boys both as an assistant and a lead dog for about a dozen seasons worth of basketball and baseball. The teams have done fine with a few league championships and most seasons with winning records. Which brings me to tip number 1. It's not about you. It's not about your record or your coaching brilliance. No one wants to hear about your base running strategy or half-court trap defense. You're not Greg Popovich. You're just Pop or Mom. If it becomes about you before, during, or after games, you're doing it wrong. Tip number 2, winning is okay. Some of you aren't going to like this. There are 2 basic templates for parents who coach. You can identify which one of your child is getting in the first 10 minutes of the first practice of the season. That's when the coach gives the get-to-know-me talk. Coach A is fun coach, the laid-back leader who's all about the sunniness of sports, things like camaraderie and fun. Coach B also is fun coach, but at some point in that first speech he or she will note how winning is more fun than losing. Then he'll get started on drills. The uncomfortable truth, most parents want their child to be on Coach B's team. Most kids want it too. Want to get better. They want to beat their friends. They want to be the ones high-fiving at the end of the game. If you're more of a Coach A tip of the ball cap to you, but if you're Coach, let's try to win. Don't feel bad. Youth sports, all sports really, is about meeting challenges, whether it's an opponent you're facing or a weakness you want to overcome. So put them to work. Do the basics. Hit 1,000,000 grounders. Offer encouraging but instructive criticism. Hit 8,000,000 more grounders. It's that simple, and when it works, when a player makes a shot or snags a hard-hit ball that seemed impossible weeks before, it'll be worth it. Quick story. A few years back, the worst player on our team was hitless throughout the season. We worked on a swing at practice, and he worked on it hard at home, but he only managed to pile off a few pitches in games. Then in the last game, hit a ground ball up the middle for a single. I don't know if my heart has ever swelled so big. About winning, though, it's going to bring some other kinds of moments. There are going to be times when you bark a little too fiercely at practice or leave a weaker player on the bench in a close game. Yes, you will, and you'll regret it. Or worse, maybe you won't. Tip number 3, no daddy ball. This one is simple and so very hard. Treat your child as if he or she is someone else's kid. Don't give him any more or less coaching than the others. Don't play her any more or less than another child with the same ability. Do not make an example of him. Sure, you're worried about other parents thinking you're giving your child special treatment, so don't. If they think you are anyway, that's their problem. And also, see tip number 1. Okay, one exception to that rule. Coaching youth sports is about you in an important way. Your child is going to be watching everything you do, from how you instruct kids to how you treat umpires to how you respond to wins and losses. It'll be a window for better or worse. Try for better. Understand that you'll mess up a little. Know that you'll lose more than a little, but if a 5-6 record is how your child begins to learn that you're not great at everything, well, that's not so bad. Because in the end, coaching is an opportunity for both of you. It's about sharing sports and sharing time. Some of the best non-sports talks I've had with my boys have happened when we're throwing the baseball or shooting the basketball. Keep that in mind, Coach. Odds are you're not raising a professional athlete. If you're lucky, you'll be raising a sports fan, and it's something you'll have long after you walk off the last court together. Peter St. Onge is a Charlotte Observer columnist. You can email him at pstonge@charlotteobserver.com.
Back to the monument wars. Oh boy. We'd briefly forgotten about our state's monument problem. The winter chill must have calmed the battle over the state's many statues commemorating our Civil War soldiers and their leaders. They're about to strike a match and relight the fire. The North Carolina Historical Commission Confederate Monument Study Committee, is holding a public hearing in Raleigh Wednesday on Governor Roy Cooper's proposal to move 3 such monuments from Capitol Square in Raleigh to the Bentonville Battlefield State Historical Site in Fort Oaks. There will, we expect, be no shortage of strong opinion on display. It reminds us that questions about the fate of the Confederate monuments have never really been answered. That's because the General Assembly seized control of the argument and ruled that nobody can move a monument from public land without legislative authorization. And it's clear that the current edition of our General Assembly isn't inclined to move any of them, no matter how strong the public outcry. We can understand why Silent Sam might be safer and less divisive in some historic site than he is on, where's the rest of it? What happened to my article? I've got a letter to the Observer. See Wars D4. I can't read the rest of this because I don't have it. So I'm sorry, we'll have to do something else. Go ahead and we're going to start, we get to do the break. So I guess it's a good thing I can't find the rest of it. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our schedule is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number, 1-844-709-5656. Your radio hosts today are a very confused Carolyn
and Robert.
We are proud to serve you today.
Okay, moving over to the Rayford News Journal. It's dated Wednesday, March 14th, 2018. Hope County's newspaper since 1905, serving Rayford and Hope County, North Carolina. Group homeowner takes mistake to court. After county ruling, it's his only option to fight a $175,000 county error by Catherine Shepard, staff writer. The owner of a local group home has filed a petition for review with the North Carolina Superior Court seeking to reverse the county's decision to revoke his conditional use permit, which was apparently issued in error against the county's own policies. Darren McNeil, CEO of Serenity Therapeutic Services, invested many tens of thousands of dollars in renovating a house at 311 Woodbury Circle to function as a group home for up to 3 adult individuals with assisted living needs. Although the county initially approved a conditional use permit, neighbors realized that the permit was issued in error and was against the county's own policies. McNeil's property is located just 2 doors down from an existing group home, while by county ordinance, group homes must be at least half a mile apart. The county revoked the conditional use permit, and McNeil appealed the matter to the Hope County Board of Adjustments last October. About 70 Woodbury Circle residents opposed allowing the second group home in their neighborhood. Resident Gene Shelnut collected signatures on a petition presented to the board last year, and many residents also stated their opposition during a Board of Adjustments meeting. The Board of Adjustments upheld the decision to revoke the permit, and McNeil at that time discussed his intention to take the matter to civil court. We provided him with a copy of the Board of Adjustments' decision to revoke the zoning permit, and he would have had 30 days to file an appeal of that with the courts, Robert Farrell said earlier this year. County Manager Letitia Edens confirmed Monday that McNeil had filed a request to have the State Superior Court consider the matter. Mr. McNeil has put in a petition for review at Superior Court, which is the next step, she said. Edens provided a copy of the petition for review filed in Superior Court by T.C. Morphus and Kevin Hornick of the Bro Law Firm in Chapel Hill on behalf of McNeil and Serenity Therapeutic Services. In the petition, the attorneys claimed that the Board of Adjustment erred in its decision, calling the finding arbitrary and capricious, and stating that its conclusions are premised on findings of fact that are inaccurate and omit key details of the case, which facts were presented to the board and appear in the record. The petition asks the Superior Court to vacate the Board of Adjustment's decision in this matter and remand this matter to the Hope County Board of Adjustment with instructions to A. reverse the board's decision upholding the revocation of the zoning permit, and B. direct the board to reinstate the zoning permit, or in the alternative, remand this matter to the Hope County Board of Adjustment with instructions that the board revise its findings of fact to include all key details of the case. The court should further direct the board to make new conclusions of law based on the revised findings of fact and grant petitioners such other relief authorized by law as this court may deem just and proper. The petition was filed in court last month in response to the Board of Adjustment's decision. The decision, published in January, stated that estoppel, a judicial term that means to keep a person from going back on their word, and the doctrine of laches, meaning an unreasonable delay in bringing the claim, did not apply to the case as McNeil's attorney had argued before the board. Estoppel is not available, and the violator relies on the conduct of county employees and not the written ordinance, the board's filing stated. Furthermore, the mere passage of time is insufficient to support a finding of laches, and the delay must be shown to be unreasonable. It must have worked to the disadvantage, injury, or prejudice of the person seeking to invoke the doctrine of laches, and the defense of laches will only work as a bar when the claimant knew of the existence of the grounds for the claim. In McNeil's petition to the Superior Court, attorneys argued that the Board of Adjustments was in error when it found that both estoppel and the doctrine of laches did not apply to the case. Attorney Jonathan Charleston of Charleston Group in Fayetteville is representing the county in the matter. Phone calls to the Serenity Therapeutic Services offices seeking comment were not returned by News Journal deadline.
All right, schools launch See Something, Say Something campaign by Catherine Shepard, staff writer. Hope County Schools launched a new safety campaign this week that will teach students across all grade levels when and how to speak up if they see or hear a potential threat to their school. The See Something, Say Something initiative is based on existing programs, but was put together more recently, Hope County Schools Director for Public Relations Jody Bryant said. We decided after the shooting in Parkland and all these different shootings that happen, there's usually someone who knows something before it takes place. And one of the ways for us to keep our schools safe and our community safe is if everyone works together, Bryant said. The initiative is meant to encourage students, parents, and community members to be vigilant about what's going on around them and to speak up if they see or hear something that could present a threat to school safety. If you hear something, or if you say something that you have a question about or that doesn't seem right, you tell someone you trust. If you're a kid, tell your parent or your teacher. If you're a community member, call the police department or the sheriff's office or the school system and let somebody know so the appropriate people can follow up on it. And it may prevent something like that in the future from happening. See Something, Say Something will involve teachers working with students in their daily lessons on topics related to knowing when to speak up. Especially for younger children, it's important to teach the difference between tattling and telling an adult when something might be wrong, school officials said. The initiative draws on lessons from programs developed in response to previous school shootings. We're trying to really promote the message to the students, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Deb Dowless said. We come up with several activities that teachers can utilize in their classrooms from K through 12 to really help promote the message. What does it mean? How can we work collaboratively to keep our schools safe? The information includes teaching things like the difference between a bystander who doesn't act and an upstander who speaks up about what they see and hear, Dallas said. Teaching young students the difference between tattling and reporting a concern, how and when to call 911, and who to tell if they're worried about something are all part of the lessons. For the middle grades, the initiatives also include a focus on bullying, how to recognize it, and what to do about it. Just things that we want to make sure kids understand and that they understand the message and their role in helping keep schools safe, Dallas said. The school system looked at programs such as Start With Hello, developed by the Sandy Hook Promise, and programs called Say Something and No One Eats Alone. Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Education Shannon Register said. Besides speaking up about potential threats, the programs also encourage students to be kinder to one another and reach out to students who tend to be loners in order to build a stronger school community. When you see someone by themselves, go up and say hello. It's really talking to students and training them on how do you walk up to your peers that you don't know and start a conversation and be able to sustain that conversation and make connections with them, Register said. Realize a lot of the characteristics of students who may do unusual acts are normally those who are loners, and they really want to feel some type of connection with the school. There are also school-wide events going on, such as challenging students to see how many acts of kindness they can do for their classmates throughout the week, and essay and poster contests to get children thinking about their role in school safety. Hope County School staff members are already trained year-round in school safety. One new program at the schools is teaching educators how to recognize the warning signs of a child who is suffering from mental health crisis and what to do about it. Hope County Schools is one of 13 pilot schools for the School Health Assessment Profile Evaluation that focuses on mental health. Student Support Services Executive Director Peggy Owen said. We started this summer training our support services staff, which includes our school counselors, social workers, school nurses, and school dropout prevention staff to identify signs and symptoms in younger people who might be experiencing a mental health emergency. The training is being expanded to teachers in groups of 30 at a time as each session becomes available.
Highway Patrol corrects information in fatal wreck by Catherine Shepard, staff writer. An email from Sergeant Stahl of the North Carolina Highway Patrol regarding the traffic accidents that led to the death of local businessman Richard Byrd contained information that conflicted with the official report and was published last week. While the email stated Byrd rear-ended another vehicle, the official report filed by Trooper Hill states that Byrd allegedly crossed the center line and hit the other vehicle head-on in the first of two accidents. A After getting out of his car, Bird was then struck and killed by a third vehicle, according to Sergeant Ellington of the NCHP, and a second report from Hill released Monday. He had been in an earlier collision, and he got out of his car after the collision and was struck, Ellington said. However, the trooper who wrote the email didn't intend for its contents to be shared with the public, the sergeant said. The email was not intended for anyone but law enforcement and the DA's office, Ellington said. Also, a reference in the email to alcohol was omitted in the official report. Investigators do not include that type of information in reports until the results of toxicology screenings are available, Ellington said, and getting results back from the lab can take anywhere from a month to 6 months, trooper said. In this case, those test results are still pending, according to the Highway Patrol report released Monday. Saul's email detailing the accident to other law enforcement and the district attorney's office was provided to the News Journal last Monday by the Highway Patrol in Aberdeen when a reporter requested information about the fatal accident. Hill's report of the first wreck became available online through the State Division of Public Safety website later in the week. Hill's official report detailing the second accident was released Monday and provided by Ellington. Authorities arrested the driver who struck Bird after he got out of his vehicle. Officers arrested Andres Merida Battaglia, 45 of Aberdeen, and charged him with driving while impaired and driving while his license was revoked. Battaglia was reportedly driving the speed limit of 55 miles an hour at the time of the accident. The driver involved in the first head-on collision was identified as 16-year-old Benjamin Chavis, the 1800 block of Strother Road. Both Bird and Chavis were doing the speed limit of 55 miles an hour at the time of the accident, the patrol says. Chavis did not suffer any life-threatening injuries from the accident, according to Hill's report. The funeral for Bird was held last week at Crumpler Funeral Home.
What's in store for Robbins Heights Mini Market Not Clear by Ken McDonald. The future of a Robbins Heights grocery store long ensconced in the community is uncertain, the owner says. Sean Alcide says he and his brother are still negotiating and haven't decided who will get the building located at the entrance to the city-owned Robbins Heights Parks Rayford City Manager. I'm sorry, I apologize. Still negotiating and haven't decided who will get the building located at the entrance to the city-owned Robbins Heights Park. Rayford City Manager Dennis Baxley says the city has put an offer of $85,000 on the store in an effort to cut down complaints and make way for parking and restrooms at the city park behind the building. But the store's current occupant, Taylor Davis, says her partner Reginald Belton has a standing offer to Alcide and is planning ongoing improvements. There's a lot of things that have been changed completely, Davis said. Floors, walls, remodeling, and everything. And seeing that he invested such a large amount into this business, he still has that deal for $70,000, she says. Davis is operating the store, she says. I'm going to run it. He's going to purchase it. Due to different reasons and his disposition with the city and everything, it's probably better if I run it. Davis says Belton, who grew up in the neighborhood, opened the store at Robin Heights Mini Market after, turn on page. Opened the store after his mother told him it was a shame the store had been closed. The store's been open forever. Oh, excuse me, I gotta sneeze. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. The store's been open forever. The Jack Tucker store. It's no reason for it to be closed. His mom lived there, now she's moved down the street. His sister lives a couple blocks over. You know, it's just a community. He knows everyone in the community. Davis says she has a lot of ideas for... Oh, excuse me. She has a lot of ideas for the store. Today we are launching our Give Back Drive. Free toiletries, toothbrush, soap, free clothes, 50-cent hot dogs, 50-cent sodas, free fruit for kids. So we're going to be doing that for 30 days. She says she plans to try helping the Open Door Soup Kitchen again. The store hosted the kitchen last summer, she says. Until the city closed it down. She says the store still accepts EBT payments as a service to the low-income community. She says complaints about the store preceded her involvement. I don't feel like I should be punished for what's happened in the past. I just believe that everyone deserves a fair shot and a fair chance. I feel like since I've been here, since October, I haven't had anything at all with my watch. Excuse me. What happened in the past happened in the past. I don't allow loud music, loitering. You can't come in the store with sagging pants. You can't come in with no shirt on. I just try to make it comfortable for young kids all the way up to the elderly. You know, I don't feel like tearing the store down to build a parking lot and restrooms is going to be appropriate because I've never seen this parking lot full behind me here. Okay, I've got to go do something with myself. I'm sorry. Oh, boy.
Okay, viewpoints. Readers want to talk about a new high school. We asked our readers what issues concern them, what questions they want us to put to candidates for election in 2018. No surprise that in early results, education concerns weigh greatly on their minds, and chief among them, the need for a new high school. Hoke High, with its 2,000-plus student body, isn't the county's only high school. There are also San Hoke Early College High School, roughly 380 students, and Turlington, roughly 100, but it's the elephant in the room, at least, and that it's huge. Not only that, Hoke High is sprawling, overcrowded, and far removed from much of the population it serves. High schools aren't cheap, and so far, apparently to capitalize on efficiencies, the Board of Education has talked only of enlarging the school. That's understandable, since the Board of Ed doesn't control the purse strings, but rather has to beg, cajole, sweet talk, and wine and dine the Board of Commissioners for money, since the county, not the state, pays for buildings. But a bigger high school isn't better, it's worse, far worse. Just look at the results from Sanhook and listen to the opinion of Sand Hills Community President Dempsey, a thinker who knows education. Smaller is better when it comes to education. It's better in a class, it's better in a school, it's better in a school district. The public's reluctance to pay taxes creates this drive for perceived efficiencies, and in the name of perceived efficiencies, we consolidated everything. Somebody came up with a brilliant idea about 1960 that we really could be more efficient if we consolidated our high schools than we had. Instead of having Jonesboro, Smithboro, Wilsonboro, and Johnsonboro high schools, we had the Will John Area High School. Now in the South, it was complicated by desegregation, but in the North it was done in the name of, I don't know, efficiency or something. I would say that's the single worst public policy decision ever made in American history. Get that? The worst public policy decision ever made in American history? And we're tempted to repeat it here in Hope County to save money, or maybe to just ignore the problem altogether. Readers are right to make this a big issue this election. It's time to hash out the need for a new high school, how to pay for it, and where to put it. We get letters. Nice tribute to Julian. Mary Emily McDonald of Rayford writes to the editor, I just wanted to give a thumbs up to Mr. Ron Huff for his wonderful article about Julian Johnson. I know that Margaret, Jay, and his family, the Wrights and the Bakers especially, will enjoy reading this candid and heartfelt tribute to Julian. Article on Old Timer, inspirational. Renate Dolan of Rayford writes to the editor, this was such an inspirational article. What honorable family. I wish all those who got into troubles had had such a family background. We would have had a great world. My best wishes to the family of Walter Purcell. We welcome your letters. The News Journal welcomes letters to the editor and encourages readers to express their opinions. Letters must be signed and include an address and phone number. The street address and phone number will not be published, but are required so we may verify authenticity. The name of the writer and, in some cases, the town the writer is from will be published at the end of the letter. We are not able to publish letters that are essentially thank you cards. We reserve the right to edit letters for grammar as well as those that exceed 300 words. We will not publish letters that we consider to be in poor taste or libelous. In some cases, we may add an editor's note as a postscript when we believe a correction, explanation, or amplification is warranted. We may also, at our discretion, limit the number of times an individual writer may submit a letter for publication.
And I'm back, and I apologize for my last outburst of sneezing. This is Frog Holler Philosopher by Ron Huff. Why we got a quarrel when we could listen to music? Every now and then we rednecks get the urge for a little culture, just in case we get invited to a fancy party and need something to talk about. That happened recently when Big Boss Bubba called to inform me that there was a string quartet playing at Hill Hall at UNC. Believe it or not, I know what that is, and in fact love classical chamber music. Hill Hall holds great memories for me as the place where I attended a summer choral camp conducted by the great choral educator Laura Hoggard while attending Hoke High. I accepted Bubba's challenge. My first musical training was classical, and I've always loved the music, but don't see many live performances. While a full orchestra is great, I love the smaller, more intimate chamber ensembles that use only a few instruments. In these groups, the interplay between the musicians is more intense. The performance was by the Attica String Quartet. I had not heard of this group, but I knew they would be excellent. A string quartet is composed of first and second violin, viola, similar to a violin but larger, and a cello. The players sit in a tight semicircle close enough to hear each other breathe. This is necessary as a high degree of subtle communication is required to perform the music. The first piece, Blueprint, was composed by a young North Carolinian, Caroline Shaw. She was a recent Pulitzer Prize winner for music and now resides in New York City. The first violinist plucked her A string as reference, and the others checked their tuning before beginning. The stringed instruments have no frets, which means each musician must control the pitch of their instrument by ear, placing their fingers precisely on the necks of the instruments. While in a large orchestra, the blending of many instruments makes the pitch of each less critical, in a small ensemble, it is vital. The ears of the musicians are trained to such a degree that they constantly adjust their pitch in reference to the other instruments. Perhaps even more amazingly, they perform without a conductor to set tempo. These intricate compositions change tempo constantly, but the players know the tempos from practice and follow each other with precision. I can tell you from experience that it is hard to maintain tempo, even with a drummer pounding out the beat. The precision of their tempos was magic. Blueprint is a modern work that features explosions of sound and glissandos where the musicians slide up and down the necks of their instruments, informed by notes and markings on their music. These mysterious markings communicate pitch, volume, tempo, attack, and duration of each note. Between the lines, the musicians add the emotion multiplied by 4. Watching the players revealed the communication between them. The dip of an eyebrow or a slight movement directed the others to follow suit. The lead player would start a note and be followed in 1/100th of a second by the others who both listen and watch for cues. The gentle swaying of a body could communicate the tempo. The second piece was by Mendelssohn. Like the first piece, I was not familiar with the music. It went through change after change, sometimes pausing between sections only to kick off in another direction completely. It is customary to hold applause until a piece is completed, in spite of the various complete stops within it. There had been so many stops and starts that then when the piece was finally concluded, no one was sure it was over. This awkward silence was broken by someone who clapped first, bringing in the barrage of applause. The composer Beethoven is known for his string quartets in which he refined the form. The last piece on the program is String Quartet number 15. I have several of his quartets on record, but not this one. The piece took us on an amazing, emotional journey, as had the others. After a standing ovation, the quartet performed another Shaw piece called Valencia. After the performance, Bubba and I locked eyes in disbelief that 4 humans with 4 wood boxes could wield such power and beauty with such precision.
Election will hinge on turnout by Thomas Nail's Politics NC. Filing ended last week and North Carolina filled out the ballots for legislative races. Every seat is contested. For political junkies, 2018 should be a field day. With so many contested races, expect some surprises. Seemingly safe seats will suddenly be in danger. Challengers given little chance to win will emerge as highly competitive. Most of that, though, won't become clear until next fall. The North Carolina Free Enterprise Foundation, run by Jonathan Kapler, has put together an early look at races to watch. According to NC Free, the State House has 27 seats that could go either way. There are 14 seats they consider truly competitive, 5 that lean Democratic, and 8 lean Republican. The other 94 are considered strong Republican or Democratic. There are enough competitive races in this mix for Democrats to flip the House. They need to win 16 races to control the chamber. On the Senate side, NC Free finds 7 competitive seats, 1 lean Democratic and 8 lean Republican. Again, there appears to be enough races to flip the chamber. Democrats need to win 10 races to do that. For Democrats to win either body, they need a wave election in November. Last time that many seats flipped was 24 years ago, when the wave of 1994 gave the GOP 26 state House seats, handing them control of the body for the first time in a century, and 13 state Senate seats, leaving them just 2 seats shy of a majority. Even a moderately good year for Democrats, though, could break the veto-proof majorities in both chambers. The most important thing to watch over the next 8 months is the national political environment. Right now, it's not good for Republicans. Donald Trump's approval ratings continue to lag below 40%, and the generic congressional ballot favors Democrats by about 9 points right now, enough to give Democrats control of the U.S. House. These are wave numbers and have led to Democrats outperforming in special elections for over a year. Democrats hope they can replicate these results in November. Also, watch what's happening with women, particularly young ones in this country. They're moving quickly towards Democrats around a host of issues. Republicans seem to be less responsive to the #MeToo movement than Democrats. Democrats accused of sexual harassment have been forced to resign. Republicans get the endorsement of the president. On guns, the GOP's inaction alienates mothers with kids in school. If those women stay motivated and vote in large numbers, Republicans could be in trouble. Republicans need the economy to stay strong. People are feeling good about their financial situations and tend to vote for the party in power. However, most middle-class families are still struggling to recover from the Great Recession, and many, if not most, will never fully recover what they lost, leaving people feeling less than satisfied. The GOP was hoping to run on their tax bill, but as a special election in Pennsylvania is any indication, it's not working out. Republican groups have backed off on the tax plan because it's not resonating with the working-class voters in the district. Support might get stronger after April 15th. Republicans passed a tax bill that disproportionately benefits the wealthy, blows holes in the debt and deficit, and was not a political priority of anybody but the GOP's donor base. Democrats have struggled in recent midterm elections because their coalition depends on younger voters who are less reliable. The Republican base is more stable, made up of older white voters. As noted in the Elon University poll last month, GOP voters are more tuned in to local issues, so they vote more reliably. If the election is nationalized, Democrats will benefit because young people will be more engaged. Watch for the GOP to try to localize their races. Finally, the 2018 election is a blue moon election in North Carolina, meaning we have no high-profile statewide races on the ballot. The last 2 blue moon elections, 1994 and 2006, were wave elections with turnout below 40%. If turnout gets much above that in November, expect Democrats to have a very good night because it probably means those young people are turning out. If it gets much below 40%, Republicans will probably fare well. Thomas Mills is the founder and publisher of PoliticsNC.com.
Food Security by the Numbers by Chris Fitzsimmons, NC Policy Watch. 13. We're food insecure with children. Same reference. 10.5. 15. Number of households in North Carolina that were food insecure from 2014-16. Now, I'm going to take just a second to kind of look at the numbers a little bit. 13%. That means, and the 16.5% was, that means about 3 out of 20. A lot of people. Okay, continuing on. 160,000. Number of different North Carolina who receive emergency food assistance in any given week. 36% of food pantries in North Carolina that have had to turn people away for lack of food to give them. 73% of North Carolina households served by food pantries that have to choose between paying for food or paying for health care or medicine. 75% of households served by food banks who have had to choose between buying food and heating their homes. 61% of families served by food banks that have been forced to choose between paying for food or paying for housing. 22% Percentage of client households served by the food banks who have a member who has served in the military. 6%. 6. Percentage of client households served by food banks that have a member currently serving. Those are awful numbers. Those are scary numbers. Go ahead. Oh, it is time again. You're not going to do this, right? Because I have it over here. Okay. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-5656. Your radio hosts today are Carolyn
And Robert.
and I want to share something with you that I just found out about. You can listen to us on YouTube, and how do you do it? It's live YouTube or YouTube Live.
Yes, I think it's, you go to weedradio.com and there's a link as well.
Yeah, weedradio.com. Or you can link at live YouTube, and then you can listen to us anytime. You use your smartphone, your computer, whatever, and see, so you can hear others of us too. I mean, you can hear the whole programs. Okay, so go ahead, Robert.
Haircuts for $3, eyebrow waxing, food featured at Career Tech today. You can get a haircut for $3, a hand paraffin wax dip for $1, or your eyebrows waxed for $3 as students in Career Tech programs at Hoke High hold the first CTE Day at Autry Stadium. Career and Technical Education, or CTE, provides students of all ages with the academic and technical skills necessary to succeed in future careers and to become lifelong learners, says the school. Hoke High offers an extensive course selection through its CTE department, but the community plays an integral part of their success by offering students real-world experience through classroom involvement, internships, and career guidance. The collaboration between the community members, faculty, and students will be showcased one day, Saturday, April 28th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Meanwhile, CTE Day in the stadium is accepting applications for food trucks, food only, no beverages, $100, non-food vendors, $50 with a 10 by 15 space, information only vendors, no charge with a 10 by 15 space, car and bike show free. In addition to food truck vendors, non-food vendors, and community information, health screenings will be provided by the local hospitals in conjunction with HOSA students. Barbering students will provide haircuts for only $3. Cosmetology students will offer hand paraffin wax dips for $1 and eyebrow waxing for $3. And tours of our CTE courses and labs will be provided by...
And was the first child of Henry Harold and Bessie Boyd Dillon. She grew up in Rayford and graduated from Hoke High School in 1963. After living in different North Carolina communities, she moved to Wilmington in 1977, where she worked as a bookkeeper and eventually owned Dillon Accounting Services. She is visitation and memorial service will be held at Andrews Mortuary and Crematory, Valley Chapel at 4108 South College Road in Wilmington. And that was on March 17th, so it's already happened. If you choose to make a donation in Angie's memory, please consider the Wesley Memorial United Methodist Church in Wilmington. Judith Hodges Martin, 96, of Rayford, died Saturday, March 3rd, at Pinehurst Healthcare and Rehabilitation. She was born on May 21st, 1921, in Surrey County, to the late Floyd Herman and Laura Elizabeth Lawson Hodges. She was a homemaker and a member of the Church of Christ in Aberdeen. She was preceded in death by her husband, Glenn Martin. The funeral was held at 10 a.m. Saturday, March 10th, at the Bowles Funeral Home in Pinehurst with Bob Mason, Terry Graves, and Wesley Williams officiating. Burial was at Red Branch Baptist Church Cemetery in Carthage. Bowles Funeral Home of Pinehurst, 35 Parker Lane, is serving the family. Online condolences may be made at www.bowlesfuneralhome.com. James T. Jim Alexander died March 6. He was born in Bowie on October 6, 1927, to William L. and Bessie Turlington Alexander. He was preceded in death by his wife of 54 years, Geraldine Jerry Bradshaw Alexander. He was also preceded in death by sisters Anne Langus, Edna Poole, Sally Langus, and brother William Bill Alexander. He was an active member of Wallace Presbyterian Church. He was also a member of Wallace Masonic Lodge number 279. He retired as a supervisor for J.P. Stevens and from Pender County Department of Corrections. A memorial service was held at Wallace Presbyterian Church on Saturday, March 10th at 2 p.m. The family is receiving friends at his residence, 505 West Westbrook Street, Wallace. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be made to Masonic Home for Children, 600 College Street, Oxford, North Carolina, 27565. A Paget funeral and cremation service of Wallace is serving the family. Mary Lee Hill of Rayford passed away on Thursday, March 8th at the age of 83. She is preceded in death by her parents, David and Lolly Lee, a brother, Joe Lee, and a daughter, Dixie Lee Hill. The funeral was held Saturday, March 10th at 11 a.m. at Rockfish Church of God, 7869 Rockfish Road, Rayford. Burial was in Rayford Cemetery. Online condolences may be made at www.crumplerfuneralhome.com. Donald Martin Calloway of Rayford passed away in his home on Tuesday, March 6th at the age of 56. He was born in Cumberland County on July 23, 1961, to the late Moyer Calloway and Doris Kane Calloway. He attended North Carolina State University and obtained his associate's degree from Wayne Community College. He was an avid outdoorsman. Along with hunting and fishing, he enjoyed reading scientific journals. Memorial service was held at 3 p.m. at First Baptist Church in Rayford. Memorials may be made to Rayford First Baptist Church, 333 North Main Street, Rayford, 28376, and or NAMI Moore County, Post Office Box 4823, Pinehurst, North Carolina, 28374. Online condolences may be made at www.crumplerfuneralhome.com. Beth Ella McAllister McLean died recently. She was born January 17, 1924. The funeral was held Tuesday, March 13th at 10:30 a.m. at McLaughlin Chapel AME Zion Church with committal at noon in the church cemetery. Lavinia Taylor Dockery died March 2nd at Open Arms Retirement Center at the age of 95. She was born August 4th, 1922 to the late Johnny and Flossie Taylor of Goldsboro. She was preceded in death by her parents, siblings, her late husband, Deacon William Spencer Dockery, and her son, Franklin Taylor. She was affectionately called Tabe by her family and close friends. She completed primary and secondary education in the public school system of Wayne County and was a member of the 1942 graduation class of Central High School. That's when I was born. She later pursued additional education and training at Piedmont School of Nursing in Burkesville, Virginia, and completed that at the School of Practical Nursing at the Maggie Walker School of Practical Nursing in 1952. She practiced nursing, holding various positions, and received awards for outstanding job performance until her retirement from the state of North Carolina. She was a member of Rock Hill Missionary Baptist Church, participating in various ministries, and served as a deaconess. She was a member of social and political organizations, among them the NAACP. She would often say, quote, "One had a civic responsibility to vote, and if you don't vote, you have nothing to say." Visitation will be held March 16th. Well, it was held March 16th at Rock Hill Missionary Baptist Church, with the church funeral following at 11 a.m. The middle will be in the church ceremony, in the church cemetery. John Edward Johnson died March 11th at the age of 52. He was born May 23rd, 1965. A viewing was held Friday, March 16th from 1 to 7 p.m. at Bowie Funeral Home Chapel. The funeral was held Saturday, March 17th at 1 p.m. at Silver Grove Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church. Committal was at 2:30 p.m. at Silver Grove Cemetery. Ann Locklear Cummings of 161 Welch Road, Rayford, passed away at Cape Fear Valley Medical Center on Tuesday, March 13th at the age of 60. She was born in Fayetteville to the late Alex and Essie Locklear. She was preceded in death by her husband, Arnold Cummings Sr., and her daughter, Sharon Harris. A visitation was held Friday, March 16th from 7 to 9 p.m. at Crumpler Funeral Home, 131 Harris Avenue in Rayford. The funeral was held Saturday, March 17th at 2 p.m. at Crumpler Funeral Home in Rayford. Burial was at the Rock Grove Baptist Church Cemetery, 360 T.C. Jones Road in Rayford. Undying condolences may be made at www.crumplerfuneralhome.com. Okay, and that's all I got.
Extension today by Liz Lottie. Polk Extension, keep your horse healthy when traveling. This is a season for horse shows and trail rides. As the weather warms up, more and more horse owners will be traveling and coming into contact with new places and horses. It is important to follow some simple guidelines to ensure that your horses stay healthy when traveling. When horses travel, they come into contact with new surroundings and new horses, increasing their risk of getting an infectious disease. Making sure your horse is up to date on their vaccinations and following a good biosecurity plan can help keep your horse healthy throughout the show and trail riding immune response. Horses should get their core vaccines, including Eastern and Western equine, encephalomyelitis, rabies, tetanus, and West Nile virus. Your veterinarian may recommend additional vaccines based on your geographic location where you plan to travel. Additional vaccines include equine influenza, equine herpes virus, and strangles, to name a few. Having a biosecurity plan means you are taking steps that are intended to protect your horses against disease or harmful biological agents. It provides another layer of protection for your horse when they travel to new places and are around new horses. Here are some recommendations that can be incorporated into your biosecurity plan. Use your own equipment, especially buckets. Clean and disinfect your used buckets and any other pieces of equipment, water hose, muck bucket, pitchfork, etc., when you get home from traveling before putting them away or using them on your farm. This will make sure you are not introducing anything onto your farm that you may have picked up while traveling. Do not let other horses drink from your buckets. Do not get water from a communal water hose. Use a water hose or spigot to collect water or bring your own. If you do use a water hose or spigot that is not yours, keep the hose nozzle above the water level and don't let the nozzle touch the water or sides of the bucket. Make sure the stall is clean of any organic material such as manure from the previous stall occupant. You can also spray the stall with a mild disinfectant before allowing your horse to enter. Avoid nose-to-nose contact with other horses. The equine herpes virus and strangles virus can be transmitted during contact. Humans should also avoid contact with other horses because they can transmit diseases back to their horses. Be cautious in communal grazing areas as well because bacteria and parasites can live outside of the host. Be especially cautious around other horses' manure, as that can be a source for parasites. Another tip while traveling is to keep your horse's stress level as low as possible. Stress can cause the horse's immune system to become compromised. Continue a familiar feeding regimen. Keep your horse on schedule to avoid stress and colic. If your horse is not used to being in a stall and gets stressed when they are in one, taking them out frequently and hand walking them can help decrease their stress level. It is important to take steps that will keep your horses healthy as you go on your adventures. If you have more questions on this topic or any others, please contact Liz Lottie, livestock agent, by calling area code 910-875-3461 or emailing Liz_Lottie, LAHTI, at ncsu.edu.
Did you read this about the new high school while I was out on the road?
Yes.
Yes, you did. Okay, well, I won't read that then. You don't want to bore you any more than I already do.
Moving to illegal advertising.
No, we're going to go to a couple of little things here. You didn't read about the Lumbee Guarantee Bond, did you?
No.
Okay. Upchurch joins Lumbee Guarantee Board. Former Tar Heel hatchery owner and poultry industry giant Wyatt Upchurch was appointed last month to the board of directors of the Pembroke-based Lumbee Guaranteed Bank. Upchurch was appointed to the board February 22nd, according to a statement from the bank. The addition of Mr. Upchurch further strengthens the business expertise represented at the board level and brings representation from the Hope/Cumberland markets of the bank, officials said in a media release. Mr. Upchurch has had a long and distinguished career in agribusiness that spanned nearly 6 decades. Born in Lee County, Upchurch journeyed from family farm to North Carolina State University and then began a career that eventually led him to start a turkey breeding operation and hatchery with his wife, Mary. The Upchurches grew this business to an operation that produced 15 million turkeys annually and 350,000 eggs a week at its height. A lot of food. Based on Rayford, they later expanded the company into swine production and employed over 200 people before selling their business interests. Upchurch has served as president of the National Turkey Federation and is a member of the North Carolina Poultry Federation Hall of Fame. Mr. Upchurch has been actively engaged in community service and philanthropy throughout his life and continues to do so, Lumbee Guarantee officials said in the statement. Upchurch served 10 years as a Hope County Commissioner and also served on the boards of the Rayford-Hope Chamber of Commerce and Lumber River Council of Governments, the North Carolina Southeast Economic Development Board, and the Hope County Economic Development Board. He chaired several of these boards on multiple occasions. Upchurch continues to serve as a director on the Lumbee River Electric Membership Corporation Board. Recently, the Upchurches celebrated their 64th wedding anniversary. Just a few weeks afterward, UNC Pembroke announced a $1 million gift to the School of Business from the couple to honor their late son, Wyatt Jeffrey, who passed away in 1976 at age 16 after battling leukemia. Mr. Upchurch brings a wealth of business experience and a proven record of community service leadership to the board of directors, which will be beneficial to the bank as we continue to provide our shareholders a solid return on their investments and our customers with the best products and personalized services that are available today, Lumbee Guarantee Board Chairman Arnold Luckler said in a press release. Founded in 1971, Lumbee Guarantee Bank is a Pembroke, North Carolina-based independent community bank that conducts its operation through 13 full-service offices located in Robeson, Hoke, and Cumberland counties. Was Robeson pronounced correctly, or is it Robeson?
Oh, you pronounced it correctly.
I got it, Robeson. Okay. And I made it through there without stumbling too much. My first today.
Browsing the files. 47 years ago, March 18th, 1971. A medical clinic for preschool children will be held 2 mornings a week at South Hook School by Army medical personnel. Routine immunizations, physical exams, and treatment of minor injuries will be offered. Rayford is chosen as a finalist in the State Years of Beauty contest sponsored by the Governor's Beautification Committee. Ms. Josephine Hall, chair of the cleanup drive, is notified of the honor. The city is sponsored by the City Council and Rayford Women's Club. A tornado hits Timberland Monday, demolishing a house on the Hurley T. Johnson Place. The 4 p.m. storm takes a roof off and blows it into the woods, leaving Mrs. Trula Leach homeless, though she was staying at a sister's in Fayettville when the storm hit. The Hogue Rescue Squad breaks ground on its building on Adams Street. Donations received after last week's total are from Jack A. Bradford, Neil L. McFadden, A&P Food Store, J.W. Turlington, Rayford Kiwanis Club, Alma D. Ferguson, Mr. and Mrs. H.R. McLean, Burlington Dyeing Plant, Kerr Stevens, J.H. Austin Insurance Company, Mrs. Benny M. Kelly, Mr. and Mrs. Al Grazer, Hook High School students. The ceremony is held Sunday at 3:30 p.m. T.C. Jones speaks on the work of the squad and its 9-year history. If you're taking a picture and intend on bringing it to the News Journal, please take it in black and white. Color pictures do not reproduce well. William McAllister, an employee of Knitaway and a veteran of the war in Vietnam, speaks to the Rayford Kiwanis Club. He served under Captain Ernest L. Medina, who was in charge of the company that was involved in the Miley incident. He said he couldn't understand the court-martial of Americans that had fought in Vietnam and called it a shame and a disgrace. He was high on his praise of Captain Medina and said if he gave any orders around My Lai, he was justified in doing so. 3 Hook High School students are selected as Outstanding Teenagers of America for 1971. The designation qualifies them for additional awards and scholarships. Kathy Bounds, Donna Jackson, and Shelby Jean Racher are nominated by Principal G.R. Autry. The 87-member Hook High Concert Band will hold a concert March 23rd at 8 p.m. at the Hook High Gym. This is in 1971. The program will include selections from the House of the Rising Sun, Midnight Cowboy, California Dreamer, Monday, By the Time I Get to Phoenix, Overture from Brigadoon, La Rosita, Tunes of Glory, and other pop tunes. From a 1971 ad, Roland's Barbecue and Oyster Bar is open 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday and closed Monday. And 25 years ago, on March 17th, 1993, I ain't never seen nothing like that. Virginia Johnson says about looking out her window and seeing a wall of smoke headed toward her house. Winds pushes fires to within feet of houses on Wednesday, but none burn, a testament to the work of local firefighters. Forecasters say a freak storm that followed on Saturday is one of the most powerful this century, bringing winds of 50 miles per hour and causing the barometer to drop to 28.50. Bethel Presbyterian Church loses a column on the front of its building. And a 400-foot cell tower is approved for Blue Springs on land owned by Earl Hendricks. Another cell tower proposed for a peach orchard, and Q-Wiffle is opposed by area residents, however.
Okay, man charged with forgery. Officers with the Rayford Police Department, you didn't read this, did you?
No.
But the police department arrested a man last week for allegedly cashing checks on an account that did not belong to him. Investigators arrested Yasser Abdul Muhammad Al-Saidi, 43, of the 700 block of Fairley Street in Laurinburg on 2 counts of common law forgery, 2 counts of obtaining property by false pretenses, and 1 count of attempting to obtain property by false pretenses. Police were called in regards to the situation and investigated. The investigation showed that Al-Saidi allegedly obtained checks from BB&T knowing he was not on the business account, according to a press release from Rayford Law Enforcement. Mr. Al-Saidi obtained checks and then cashed the same checks to obtain money in January of 2018. Mr. Al-Saidi was arrested March 8th while attempting to obtain another check from BB&T in the same business account. The total amount of money involved was $1,290, according to police. Al-Saidi was given a $15,000 bond. School Safety Committee meeting is broadcast. The police can listen in live to a day-long General Assembly Committee meeting. The public. I haven't gotten any better, have I? The public can listen in live to a day-long General Assembly Committee meeting focused on addressing school safety in North Carolina, scheduled for March 24th. Representative Garland Pierce, who represents Hoke and Scotland counties in the State House District 48, was appointed to the new School Safety Committee. Pierce recently met with superintendents, school principals, sheriffs, and other law enforcement officials from both Hoke and Scotland counties. The representative sought to get input on how to make schools safer for students and staff in the future, and will take that information with him to the committee meeting. The meeting will be broadcast over the internet and is set to start in the morning, break for lunch, and resume in the afternoon. Members of the public can listen by going online to, this is March 24th, so I guess you need to know it. http://ncleg.net/. Click on audio, then click on School Safety Committee, room 643, LOB. Well, it sounds like it'll be a fascinating thing to listen to.
And also on March 24th, Hook Football to hold NFL-style combine by Hal Nunn, sports writer. Hook County Bucks' new head football coach, George Small, will be conducting his first ever NFL-style high school combine on March 24th at Hook High. The goal of this combine is to establish a baseline for those desiring to play high school football and maybe even further, Coach Small said. The combine is for high school-aged kids, and an announcement will be made later for a middle school combine. Registration starts at 8:30 a.m. The combine will begin promptly at 9 a.m. Each participant is asked to bring cleats and running shoes. Coach George Small will be in his first year at the helm of the Hoke County Bucks football team. Coach Small played for Hoke and in the NFL and coached college football for many years. He has expressed much excitement for being able to come home and help lead the Bucks program. For more info, call the school at area code 910-875-2156.
Okay, I see. Well, I'm out of stuff. This new thing, am I supposed to read this one instead of the old one? Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, well, all right. This concludes our reading of the Rayford News Journal and the Fayetteville Observer Times. By the way, do we still have? I didn't see our other stuff by Ken McDonald. Did I miss it in the paper, or is it coming?
I didn't see it either. I was looking for it too.
Yeah, because he's always fun to listen to. Anyway, this concludes our reading of the Rayford News Journal and the Fayetteville Observer Sunday issue. Stay tuned for an hour of Raleigh broadcasting. This is what it is. Your radio hosts have been Carolyn and
Robert.
And for our radio listeners, we will now join the Raleigh Network for additional programming. Thank you for tuning us in, and we've enjoyed being with you. And for other people, you can get us, as we said, at live on wereadradio.com, .net, .something.
.org or something.
Yeah, well, anyway, We Read Radio, do a search, and you can listen to us then. And I'm sure we're not going to have we're not taping, so we can't have it later, can we?
Right.
Okay, I really know what's going on, don't I? Anyway, I have loved being with you today, so has Robert. Have a wonderful day.